Otaku in the Marvel DC universe. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction, so don't try any techniques you hear here in real life. Your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 276 Thunderfirewood. Time passed quickly, and it was unknown how long it had been when the women in the cabin gradually stopped their weak murmurs and groans, and instead began to chat idly in low voices above the village. The ever-changing constellations and the wildly growing and decaying forests had also gradually slowed down, until they completely returned to normal. Time was finally frozen on a cloudy night, with stars and moonlight blocked behind thick clouds, and flashes of lightning began to flicker in the stormy sky from time to time. There would be bursts of rumbling sounds after a while. The voices of the women in the cabin also began to slowly die down, turning into light snores. However, before the sound could last long, it was drowned out by a large expanse of fierce rain, and the rain curtain connecting the sky and the earth then enveloped the entire village. However, in this torrential rain, the giant eagle Rachel struggled to get up from the ground with her tired and weak body, built a rain shelter for herself, and took out an extra-large bed, then laid down inside to continue resting. Before closing her eyes, the little female eagle called out to little Kong, who was standing still in the rain outside, trying to call the little guy into the shed to take shelter from the rain. However, little Kong only glanced at her before turning his head again, continuing to curl up there, his eyes fixed on Liang Yue, who was surrounded by a spectacle at this moment. Liang Yue had a purple lotus flower on top of his head. The lotus flower was as real as could be, with every detail visible, and its posture was graceful. From time to time, it would shake as if it had a spirit in the torrential rain. A purple haze of true energy was propping up a shield, covering Liang Yue's entire body like a semi-transparent umbrella. It was raised high, and not a single drop of rain could fall. Behind him, there was another charred tree stump, faintly visible, sometimes appearing and sometimes disappearing. Judging from the image, the tree stump was about 1 meter wide and less than half a meter high, with the roots occupying most of the volume. The ends of the roots seemed to be rooted in the void at this moment. Clusters of flames were constantly bursting out of the tree stump, and violent electric sparks were wrapped around it, tightly enveloping it. Looking at the momentum, it seemed that it wanted to completely burn the tree stump, turning it into electricity. However, it was under these circumstances, under the ravages of fire and electricity, and under the protection of the charred tree stump, that a faint green color was slowly brewing at this moment. The thunder and fire that were constantly bursting and flickering on the charred tree stump seemed to no longer be just forces of destruction at this moment, but were transformed into nutrients that were nourishing. That touch of green, what was originally just a small point, had now grown to the size of a broad bean. Under the test of time, moreover, it was slowly drilling out of the protection of the tree stump. Under the interweaving of thunder and fire, this little thing showed an unusual vitality, and spread out 2 fleshy leaves at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, a strange wave suddenly emanated from this young shoot, rippling around like water waves. It seemed to be proclaiming its birth to the surrounding world. Squeak! With a soft sound, the door of the cabin was pushed open from the inside. Teacher Shizuka was the first to walk out of the room, yawning, stretching out her arms, and stretching lazily, revealing her beautiful figure. Without a doubt, Liang Yue comes back, and what is that on top of his head? It seems that he must have practiced some magical skill again, right? I remember he said last night that he had entered some innate realm. Sayatakaji said absent-mindedly while rubbing the corners of her eyes, with a hint of envy in her tone that seems to be a spectacle belonging to innate martial artists. I once saw it on the body of Zhang Sanfen, but what is behind Zhang Zhenren is a Tai Chi diagram. Liang Yue's hair looks a bit complicated, Jiang Buhu said with curiosity, holding Xiao's waist in front of her, her chin resting on the other's shoulder. On that, I feel the power of fire, lightning, and plants. It is indeed a bit complicated. Alwan walked over at this time, hugged little Kong, who had been drenched in the rain for most of the night, and then took out a towel to wipe the dark fur on his body that was standing up like a hedgehog. I remember that in Liang Yukun's previous training mission, there seemed to be a reward, which was an innate martial arts insight. Could this be the thing? Sikobir Sujima walked to the dining table at this time, cleaning up the dishes and chopsticks, while looking at Liang Yue, who was cultivating with his back to them, facing the morning light. Can a martial arts insight reach this level? I can even feel a different elemental power on that little sapling behind him, Sayumi said at this time with a wave of her hand. The dishes and chopsticks on the table disappeared instantly. It was unknown whether she had put them into the stronghold world or sent them into some corner. Seeing this, Siko-senpai, who was cleaning up next to her, rolled her beautiful eyes at her, giving her a dissatisfied look. It's not just that little sapling. The surrounding thunder and fire seem to be very simple. They all contain rich elemental power. Yuriko took a damp cloth from the side and wiped the table meticulously. With a flip of her hand, she took out a pile of ingredients from the storage space. Afterwards, she took out an iron bucket filled with magma, and gently poured it out. In the groove in the middle of the table, a magma grill suddenly appeared. It seems you have all made great progress. At this moment, Liang Yue's voice suddenly came from the side, and the women all looked at his back when they heard the words. At this time, he had already begun to withdraw his power, and the purple lotus above his head and the thunder, fire, and wood spectacles behind him were also slowly fading, and then completely converged. Brother, is your cultivation over? Yeah, this time I have benefited a lot. Reaching out and picking up Nana, who ran towards him, Liang Yue then sat down at the table with a half-grown girl in his arms. What did you say before? Wasn't it only one day? How long has it been now? The upgrade of the outside world is over a full 3 days. My brain has been hurting for 3 days. Don't you have anything to say? Sayumi looked at him with a stinky face at this time, took a hard bite of the bread in her hand and said, her eyes also with dissatisfaction, oh, I didn't expect this problem beforehand. Now it seems that this may be because there is a difference in physical fitness between us. So your speed in receiving knowledge is a bit slower. However, you should all be satisfied with the skill elemental mysteries, right? As soon as Liang Yue's voice fell, everyone on the table nodded unconsciously. Alwyn, as the elf princess, stretched out a slender finger at this time, and then drew a few dots in the air, while muttering a somewhat ethereal elven language. In an instant, a round, burning fireball appeared. However, immediately afterwards, the fireball began to show cracks on the surface due to the unstable structure after being shot into the air by Alwyn. It had only just flown 4 or 5 meters before it suddenly scattered into a scattering of sparks. However, even so, her act of casting a spell still attracted the unanimous exclamation of the women. Alwyn, you can actually use magic. No, but as a high elf, I naturally have some magic power in my body, but the amount is very small. Now I am just using the knowledge in elemental mysteries using magic power as a guide. I have gathered a piece of fire element. Now it seems that just gathering it is not enough. The arrangement structure of the elements is also very important. That's already very powerful. Chapter 277, Zombie Mine. Golden Legendary Piano, a product of magical alchemy. Its tone is crisp, bright, and full. It's a masterpiece among pianos. Someone once used it to enchant a demon king from another world. Yet it's just a musical instrument. Selling price 1,000 points. 2 natural days passed by quickly, which, when converted to the current base world, equates to a full 10 days. During these 10 days, Liang Yue racked his brains and, after much trial and persistence, ultimately had to admit that his previous ideas were a bit too naive in the realm of cultivation. Success based on luck and fantasy exists only in fairy tales. Originally, Liang Yue thought that after a period of research and exploration, he would eventually see the breakthrough, achieving harmony of all things, unity of man and nature, and the grand unification of man and nature. But reality ultimately gave him a solid slap in the face. Thus the cultivation plan for the everlasting spring technique was officially declared a failure. Facts prove that Liang Yue had overestimated the power of the low-level spiritual energy converted from the everlasting spring technique, and underestimated the resilience of the Purple Dawn True Key. Given Liang Yue's current aptitude and physical fitness, the initial cultivation of the everlasting spring technique was naturally quite smooth. After reaching the acquired realm, he almost immediately connected with the spiritual energy of the outside world during meditation, drawing it into his body after circulating through the meridians. This spiritual energy successfully transformed into spiritual power. However, when this spiritual power began to merge into the dungeon and encountered the martial Dao True Key, something unusual happened, possibly due to an instinct for self-preservation, or a rejection reaction. The Purple Dawn True Key, which had been lying dormant in the dungeon, suddenly activated without warning at the first sign of this spiritual power overwhelming and interspersed with guidance. In less than a breath, it dispersed the spiritual power, then absorbed and transformed it for its own use. However, Liang Yue wasn't surprised by this. After all, in his opinion, dual cultivation of 2 different methods wouldn't be so easy. So, in the following time, He enthusiastically began to circulate the everlasting spring technique again, especially after Liang Yue received the innate insights of the thunder firewood. The purple dawn true key seemed to have begun to produce some subtle changes, becoming more vibrant and resilient. Trying to absorb and transform it with meager and weak spiritual power was simply impossible. Thus, Liang Yue suddenly understood a principle that is, martial Dao and immortal Dao cannot be cultivated at the same time. At least at this stage, it is impossible to achieve with his vision and realm. Moreover, under the same realm, martial Dao true key is not weaker than spiritual power. Liang Yue Jun, we are going to run the dungeon. Are you coming with us? I won't go. You guys take little Vajra over there, okay? Then we're off. Watching teacher Shizuka and the others hopping and skipping, eagerly flying down, Liang Yue couldn't help but curve the corners of his mouth, a trace of peace flowing across his face. With a flip of his sleeve, the everlasting spring technique was put into the storage space, and what appeared instead was the long unseen innate skill manual. There's nothing to say. Life still has to go on after all. With Liang Yue's current acquired realm cultivation, when the next trial world is opened again, it will definitely be a world with a higher energy level, so he must now master more powerful power. Since he cannot temporarily cultivate the everlasting spring technique, a low-level cultivation technique, he naturally has to take a step back and refocus his attention on martial Dao techniques. Fortunately, martial Dao is not inferior to immortal Dao in any way, and both can lead to higher levels and realms, especially after Liang Yue came into contact with a mystical martial Dao innate insights of the thunder firewood. If you ask me, it's just that this everlasting spring technique isn't powerful enough. If it were replaced by another world, such as stellar transformations, the cultivation system there would directly include martial Dao, starting from the acquired realm, continuing upwards, breaking through that would be a cultivator. Even a freak who is born with a danshan unable to gather energy can achieve great feats. I'm doing well now. After a burst of complaints, Liang Yue simply slumped into the sofa, casually browsing through the innate skill manual in his hand. In recent times, although Liang Yue has focused his main energy on the cultivation and research of the everlasting spring technique, it doesn't mean that he hasn't done anything else. He just hasn't done much. For example, senior sister Z, teacher Shizuka, and others, after learning that he wanted to focus on researching new techniques, took the initiative to take over the task of exploring the map. Basically, 2 to 3 of the young ladies would be dispatched every day, riding Rachel out for a flight. Although the efficiency isn't very fast, at this rate, the map in hand should be able to be surveyed in a few more days. As for Liang Yue himself, in order to relieve the boredom and depression in everyone's hearts, he also took a day out to take a group of women to New York in the real world for a stroll. They thoroughly scoured and shopped, purchasing many clothes and supplies, as well as various electrical appliances, computer and mobile phone information tools, and even transportation vehicles. As for the identity issues of the young ladies, Liang Yue had already entrusted Aunt Liu to handle them yesterday, and he believes that there will be results soon. However, before officially obtaining their ID cards, the group couldn't travel alone and wander around at will. In their spare time, they could only hide in the Xavier mansion and surf the internet. In addition, the most important thing that Liang Yue has done during this time may be the selection of the second dungeon and the placement of the dungeon door next to the Forest of Miracles. His luck was not bad this time. The dungeon was randomly selected from a classic old online game, that is, the civilian newbie main battlefield in the Legend of Mir 2 World Zombie Cave. This dungeon consists of multiple layers of cave maps. At the beginning, the monster levels are not high, and they move slowly, so it is not difficult to eliminate them. It can also drop various gold coins, red and blue potions, equipment, and even skilled books for various professions. This is very powerful. Moreover, although the number of entries and exits to the zombie cave dungeon is only 3 times a day, there is no limit to the number of people each time you enter. That is to say, in theory, everyone can carry out group operations in this cave. Liang Yue had previously taken the girls to stroll around the cave. As a result, after 3 dungeon runs, a total of 1 mage's small fireball and 1 archer's double shot were brushed out. This drop rate is simply appalling. Other potions, gold coins, and equipment were also dropped, but they were mostly low-level goods, not as good as the equipment worn by everyone. Moreover, at that time, in order to protect the safety of teacher Shizuka, Nana, and others, Liang Yue did not take everyone too deep into the dungeon. Each time they encountered a zombie that could release a flash of light, Liang Yue would directly take the girls back the way they came. Therefore, he is not yet clear about the situation in the depths of this zombie cave. In addition, in this real-world dungeon, monsters die when they die and will not continue to refresh, but some silver, iron, copper, gold ore, etc. can be mined. I don't know if it is the special rules in this mine that are working when Liang Yue took the small pickaxe from it and tapped in the gold, silver, and even crystal mines in this zombie mine. These veins did not explode into rotating small cubes like they do outside, but directly drop various ores. The probability of dropping is really puzzling to him. In short, it's very low, but even so, the girls and Liang Yue showed great interest and enthusiasm for this newly released zombie cave dungeon. The reason is nothing else: skills. This dungeon can drop skills. Although Gao Cheng, Saya and others are still worried about not having magic power, many skills produced in this dungeon cannot be used by them, but who knows what will happen in the future. Furthermore, at this time, everyone still has the blessing of advanced skills such as elemental mysteries. Under the cramming-style indoctrination of a large amount of magic knowledge, the young ladies are now all masters in terms of theory. It shouldn't be too difficult to develop a set of effective magic power cultivation methods. Chapter 278 Xianshenguang. Moreover, after a period of careful consideration, Liang Yue also discovered martial arts true key and cultivation spiritual power, after reaching a certain level of cultivation, seem to have something in common with the magic power attributes of the magic side, or rather, they contain the attributes of magic power. After all, cultivators, in addition to making various magic weapons and equipment, are also masters in the practice of spells and the harnessing of natural forces. The last few pages of the Everlasting Spring Skill Record 7 entry-level beginner spells in the cultivation world, if Liang Yue remembers correctly. Han Lamo was already qualified to practice these spells when he cultivated to the 6th level of this skill. Although due to his poor aptitude, Han Diaoguanzi only learned the Fireball technique and the Heavenly Eye technique, but this is enough to prove my deduction. In addition, Liang Yue also has another idea in his heart, that is, since spiritual power can be used to cast spells, then my innate Ziksha true key, which is no weaker than the former in quality, should also be possible, right? Don't you see? Jinmazi in the Xianlong Babu world, back then, didn't he skillfully unleash one of the Senjiao magical powers of Tibetan Buddhism, the Flame Blade? With acquired true key, although this is achieved through the principles of martial arts, internal force, and the operation of the human body's meridians, but after Liang Yue advanced to the innate level, didn't he also successfully use this mental method, combined with the power of elements, to create a mutated template of the Flame Blade? All these signs indicate that the innate true key, which is directly absorbed and transformed from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, is actually not worse than spiritual power, so there is no reason why it cannot cast spells. It was with this thought and idea that Liang Yue had already memorized the 7 entry-level spells recorded in the Everlasting Spring skill during the previous 2 days in the real world and 10 days in the Stronghold world. Even if there are some difficulties in using innate true key to operate spells due to differences in system principles and some power properties, don't forget that Liang Yue also has elemental mysteries to assist him. Just change it, then being able to transform the Flame Blade and Golden Bell cover, such divine art level techniques, into something suitable for oneself. Then why can't the mere Fireball technique, Palm Thunder, Wind Control technique, etc., be transformed now? Moreover, after being given the composite martial arts innate inside of Thunder Firewood by the system in the form of empowerment, Liang Yue now clearly feels that he seems to have an almost instinctive affinity and manipulation effect for the elemental powers of fire, thunder, and wood. Although all of this is not very proficient, and he himself has not had time to practice it recently, this feeling from the spiritual level is unmistakable. In addition, Liang Yue is also very interested in the various skills produced in the zombie mine, like small fireball, big fireball, lightning technique, flash lightning, hell thunder, ice roar, and even skeleton summoning, divine beast summoning, etc. Aren't these all applications of magic? Although because they are skills, and the growth potential of skills in the legend world is very limited, most of them only have 3 levels. They are also a means that cannot be ignored. In addition, in Liang Yue's heart, there is actually another idea, that is, after these skills are practiced to the highest level, will they still produce something? For example, it can enable practitioners to independently upgrade, independently adapt the skills mode, or simply use non-normal means to cause the skill to mutate. At the very least, it can also be possible to comprehend some of the operating principles of the skill and the existing rules from this max-level skill. Of course, these are just his guesses so far. Liang Yue has not been able to practice any skill to the maximum level, and double shot is a beginner skill for the archer profession, which happens to be in line with Saya Takaji's previous archery training path. Although in Liang Yue's view, to use this kind of active skill, one has to consume the corresponding magic power, but in this pink-haired girl's heart, obviously, like him, there are some unrealistic fantasies. Liang Yue naturally doesn't care about this. After all, this is not a rare thing in itself. Since the zombie mind can drop a skilled book once, it will definitely be able to drop it a second time, a third level, or even more. And the reason why Liang Yue is not entering the mind dungeon with teacher Shizuka and others now is because he has more important things to do now. Innate skill. We meet again looking at the somewhat yellowed secret book in his hand. Liang Yue couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth at this time, although before this guy had expressed 12 points of joy in his heart for the appearance of this skill later. However, because of his insatiable greed, he questioned it, and was full of confidence that he could get something better. The appearance of the everlasting spring skill made Liang Yue see hope, but after that, it was disappointment again. After such a big circle of twists and turns, Liang Yue found that in the end, the one that accompanied him was still the one at the beginning. In short, thousands of words can be summed up in one sentence: this is fate. After smiling silently, Liang Yue immediately began to concentrate on reading the secret book in his hand. Innate skill. The beginning is above the innate dual cultivation of life and nature in harmony with heaven and earth. After reading it back and forth 3 times, Liang Yue can already feel with his current realm that the content of the innate skill is actually not much. Although the level issues involved in the secret book start with the innate realm, it is still within the innate realm when practiced to the end, even compared to the 13 levels of the key refining realm peak great perfection recorded in the everlasting spring skill. It is slightly inferior. The entire secret book only has 1 book, and most of the space on this book is actually Wang Chongyang's experience and skills in using internal force, etc. But this founding ancestor of the Kwanzaa Taoist school managed to derive many branches and veins for his disciples with such a simple skill. How Tun's Ziksha skill, Chu Chuji's pure yang scripture, the Kwanzaa sex golden goose skill that runs through 1 key, and even the most basic Kwanzaa internal skill, Kwanzaa sword technique, etc. all originate from this innate skill. This is the so-called principle of the great Dao to simplicity. There was a rumor that Wang Chongyang accidentally obtained half of the inheritance of Lu Dongbin, the pure yang real person of the Tang dynasty, in his early years. It seems that this should be true compared with the everlasting spring skill. This innate skill gives people a sense of unfinished business no matter how you look at it. This secret book obviously lacks some higher level extensions and matching enemy defeating techniques. However, no matter what, the innate skill and the Ziksha divine skill are inherited from the same vein, and they are skills that can be smoothly transitioned, and the true key cultivated by this innate skill, it can indeed raise the Ziksha true key to a higher level of energy attribute. As for the future, let's talk about it later. Maybe in the next world, I will be able to find a secret book that is enough to inherit this cultivation base. However, speaking of which, the Ziksha true key in my danshin is actually pure enough, right? Especially after receiving the nourishment of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, can the true key refined by this innate skill really be more pure than Ziksha? With this in mind, Liang Yue, out of curiosity, immediately put away the secret book, and then walked to the stone pier at the edge of the roof and sat down cross-legged. He huffed, slowly exhaling a breath, emptying his mind, calming his mind for a moment, and after his mind was clear, he began to circulate the Ziksha true key in his body according to the operation method of the innate skill. Chapter 279. Mom is coming. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, half a month has passed. In recent days, Liang Yue has clearly felt that the atmosphere at school is about to explode, and the students all seem very excited. Even his quiet Japanese desk mate, only some exchange students from East Asia and Central Asia in their international class, seemed a little more normal. Only after asking around did he learn that Christmas was coming soon, and this day in the United States was equivalent to their New Year. The situation in the island country is rather special. As an East Asian country, they started celebrating Christmas more than 100 years ago. In fact, even in China, in recent years, some businesses have been hyping up Christmas as a legitimate holiday, especially among young people. Sending roses and chocolates is just an entry-level tactic. Those with a little more wealth will send their girlfriends a wave of cosmetics and brand-name items as a gift. Offensive in terms of the intricacies of gift-giving, it seems to be more elaborate than in genuine Christian countries, and it has been a genuine marketing carnival. Unfortunately, compared to the fiery atmosphere created by the public and businesses, the state level has no special reaction to this, neither encouraging nor opposing it, because this means that you will have more free time to cultivate wholeheartedly. In addition, it seems that gift-giving during Christmas in the United States is not just a matter between boyfriends and girlfriends, but also between some familiar and close friends if calculated this way. Liang Yue will be quite busy first, He has to give gifts to Sam and Pete, those two fools, as well as his Japanese deskmate and Gwen Stacy. Aunt Liu, and Nurse Lu Yao also seem to deserve a little something. He also seems to have to show some goodwill to Tony, the big dog tycoon. After all, he is a partner, and then, although separated by vast oceans, he can't forget his old mother in China. He has to send something. Furthermore, teacher Jinx Yang and others are from the island country and have a tradition of celebrating Christmas, so he has to send something. Calculating it this way, Liang Yue really has to spend time preparing, although, in his own heart, he feels that this kind of thing is a bit troublesome and not very meaningful. But a sense of ritual is sometimes indispensable. However, this is not the end of it. When Liang Yue returned home, the real trouble had just begun. "Hello, Aunt Liu, what's the matter?" Oh, the household registration and ID documents have been processed? Your efficiency is really high. Christmas? Don't mention it. I'm worried about what gifts to prepare. You'll definitely have a share then. What? My mom is coming over? And wants to stay for a while longer? Surprise, of course. I'm surprised. Isn't it? It's been a long time since I saw her. She also knows about the Xavier mansion? And said she wants to change the name herself. It's great if she comes over for a while, but I was originally planning to go home for the new year. Listening to you, my mom seems to be planning to spend it here. You're coming too? That's great. When the time comes, our family will have a good drink. Okay. You go ahead and get busy. Don't forget to notify me when the time comes, so I can pick you up from the airport. Don't need me to pick you up? Won't delay my studies. What am I? Okay, that's fine too. Goodbye, Aunt Liu. After hanging up the phone, Liang Yue gently rubbed his stiff cheeks, and his heart was filled with anxiety. It was like when he was a child, he hid a little secret, and now it was about to be discovered by his parents. Liang Yue's heart was already starting to feel a little feverish, his blood was surging, and even the thoughts in his brain began to flow involuntarily. What to do? Mom is coming, which means the mansion can't be kept a secret. However, the matter of the mansion is nothing. Anyway, there is a cooperation agreement with Tony. The key is teacher Jinx Yang and them. It's not easy to explain. Or should I let them stay in the base world for a few days during Christmas and not come out? No, a group of young ladies were still discussing how to spend it a few days ago. Moreover, Mom may have to stay in the United States for a while this time, at least until after the Lunar New Year before returning home. But when the time comes, how will I explain to the old lady? 1 is okay, 2 is barely acceptable, but what about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maids, servants, and butlers? Or should I find another place and let them stay outside for a while? No, Aunt Liu must have already revealed the matter of me helping them get household registration. I originally claimed that I had found a few smuggled nannies sinking into the wide sofa. Liang Yue scratched his scalp vigorously while his mind raced, and then picked up the honey grapefruit tea in front of him and took a big gulp as the sour and astringent liquid entered his throat. This guy's brain suddenly twitched, and then a bold idea flashed through his mind. Or, should I bring Mom and Aunt Liu into the base world together? This world is too dangerous, with Marvel, Transformers, and a bunch of assassins popping up from time to time. I estimate that Thanos will come out in a few years. It's time to consider the issue of retreat. Calculating it this way, it is also feasible. Aunt Liu is hard to say. Mom should. Okay, let's tentatively decide on this first. Bring Mom into the village first, and then let her decide about Aunt Liu. In a flash, another week has passed on this day. After Liang Yue sent out the gifts he had prepared in advance for the 4 little friends in the class, he took their return gifts and returned to his rented apartment. After taking out the black cyan Harley iron shield he had just bought some time ago, he hurried to Xavier Mansion, located in the northern suburbs, across most of New York City from the school. Tomorrow is the so-called Christmas. Although he had not received a phone notification in advance, his mother and Aunt Liu were already in the manor at this time. This was the news that teacher Jinx Yang had sent through the villager platform when Liang Yue was still in class, hurrying all the way. In about less than an hour, this guy had already rushed to the manor along the asphalt road. Stall the engine, park the car, pull out the key. Looking up, he saw a tall lady already standing in front of the hall door, holding a cup of coffee steaming with heat in her hand. A black trench coat, black trousers, black leather shoes, a white floral collar lining, jet black hair, long and scattered big eyes, a high nose bridge, small lips, an oval face, skin that is overly white, but gives people a very healthy feeling. Looking at this figure at a glance will make your whole person quiet down, especially those eyes, as if they have magic, like deep lakes, calm and unhurried. but full of spirituality that is hard to ignore. Chapter 280 Elizabeth and Chapter X27, S Gift. Mom, you're here, come here Oa. Just as Liang Yue trotted to the door, before he could even open his mouth to compliment the woman in front of him, his mother's hand twisted his ear deaf to his deliberate screams. She twisted it left and right a few times, looked him up and down for a while, then released his ear and said in a flat tone, it's only been a few months, but you've grown taller again, and you've improved, but there are few more women here about this matter. I actually have a good reason. As he spoke, Liang Yue subconsciously rubbed his ear, just about to talk to his mother about Sister Z and Xia Azeo and the others. Aunt Liu walked in from the hall, with Chief Nurse Lu Yao following closely behind. Seeing this, Liang Yue decisively changed the subject. Aunt Liu, Sister Lu Yao, Merry Christmas. What secrets are you two whispering about? We're not saying anything. I just got back, and my mom saw that I've grown taller and almost didn't recognize me in the X-Men series. Professor Xavier transformed his ancestral home into a school, and the basement was the military base for the mutant X-Men. In fact, the situation is roughly similar in the current mixed world. After walking into the hall, the first thing that hits you is an air of elegance. The architectural style here is very classical, with dark tones, but the overall style makes people feel very warm. Teacher Shizuka, Sister Z, and Saya Takagi are currently wearing black and white maid outfits, standing in a row to the side, while Aunt Yuriko is wearing her Loki robe, dressed as a housekeeper. Alvin is sitting in front of the Golden Legend piano on one side of the hall, playing meticulously. Yang Buhu, Xia Azeo, Nana, and Rika Minami don't know where they've run off to for the time being, but they should still be in this castle. Welcome back. At this time, the young ladies seem to have entered their respective roles. Seeing Liang Yue enter the house, they immediately bowed slightly and offered their greetings. This is my mom, this is Aunt Liu, and Sister Lu Yao. Hello, madam. Hello, Ms. Liu. Hello, Ms. Lu. Well, you guys go ahead and get busy. Just send some refreshments over later. Yes, by the way, Liang Yue-kun, this is a package that a courier delivered earlier. Just as she was about to leave, Teacher Shizuka suddenly remembered something, so she turned around and handed him a square gift box from her arms. Oh, thank you, you're welcome. Hey, it's actually that little girl Elizabeth who sent it. A Christmas gift? That's more like it. She finally didn't forget about me. Looking at the sender's name on the package, Liang Yue immediately curled the corners of his mouth, but before he could take the next step, his mother leaned over from the side. Elizabeth? I heard that she's your little girlfriend. Huh? Who did you hear that from? Your Aunt Liu. We established a relationship when we were at school before, but some time ago, something happened at her home, so she went back, and I guess we won't be able to see each other for a long time. I didn't expect her to send a gift over. Open it and take a look. It's a little girl's heart. Aunt Liu also turned out from the other side of Liang Yue at this time, and said with a look that was both smiling and not smiling. Chief Nurse Lu Yao was also standing in the back, secretly observing. Well, let's go inside first. I've also prepared a lot of gifts for you these days. As he spoke, Liang Yue hugged the gift box in his arms and stepped up the stairs with the three of them, and then came to a comfortable living room on the second floor. The winter sun shone in through the floor-to-ceiling glass windows, covering the room with a layer of warm light. The little girl, Nana, was squatting in front of the fireplace, adding firewood to it. Little King Kong was holding a pole, also squatting to the side, with a sweet potato stuck on the other end of the pole and roasting it. Seeing Liang Yue and the others walk into the room, Nana quickly stood up at this time and gave him a sweet smile. Brother, squeak squeak, are you tired? Not tired. Nana can do it. Brother has prepared a gift for you. I'll give it to you later. Yet. Not long after taking their seats, Aunt Yuriko directed Xia Azeo and Yang Buhu to walk in, each carrying refreshments. Liang Yue then began to chat with his mother, Aunt Liu, and Lu Yao. After they ate some snacks, drank milk tea, and slowly got excited, this guy secretly took the gift box sent by Elizabeth from the side, opened it and took a look. He found that there were two things inside, one of which was a scarf, with burgundy and dark blue colors interspersed, looking very British, but the workmanship was a bit rough. Could it be that the blonde girl knitted it herself? The other item was an envelope, but there was nothing written inside, but 3 photos were stuffed in. One of them was a shot taken from an aerial angle, and it was of a very high precision. Liang Yue recognized it almost at a glance. The scene in the photo was his manor. In addition, on this photo, there were also several circles randomly circled with a red marker, and there were small dots inside the circles. Upon closer inspection, the circled dots seemed to be the figures of Teacher Shizuka, Xia Azeo, Nana, and the others. The second photo was a close-up of Elizabeth with her blonde hair up. At this time, the blonde girl was squinting her eyes, pursing her small mouth, With a threatening look on her face in the photo, she stretched out two slender index and middle fingers, and then pointed them left and right at her own eyes. As for the third photo, it was still that expression, but the two fingers had turned from the direction of her own eyes to the side of the camera. Looking at the three photos sent by Elizabeth, Liang Yue almost understood the meaning to be expressed inside. That is, "I'm always watching you." This seems to be Elizabeth expressing her dissatisfaction with Liang Yue finding several maids, and issuing a death warning. Okay, it seems that this blonde girl is quite vigilant. I guess she knows almost everything I've been doing during this period of time. Thinking of this, Liang Yue also shook his head with a chuckle, and then took the lid of the gift box next to him and looked at the address sent on it, 177 Bleecker Street, Manhattan. Huh? Isn't this that the Magician's New York sanctum? Is Elizabeth working there? Or is she just forwarding the express delivery from there through the Magician's organization? It seems that I really have to find some time to go over and take a look, and by the way, give her the Christmas gift as a makeup. Liang Yue? What's the matter, Mom? I just discussed it with your Aunt Liu and plan to stay in New York for a while. What do you think? Of course it's good. That's good. Before coming to the United States, I have already entrusted your Aunt Liu to take care of the school affairs for you. When the time comes, you will officially transfer to your current high school, and you will go directly to college here in the future. Oh, what about the affairs in China? Let's put things in China on hold for the time being. As for the household registration and visa, the household registration will not be transferred. What I mean is, I'll get you a long-term green card. That's okay too. Chapter 281 Strong Mom. Night. After a sumptuous festive feast, Aunt Liu and Sister Liu Yao had returned to their respective rooms to rest. During festivals, gifts are ultimately just embellishments. The focus is on expressing good intentions. For example, Aunt Liu and Liu Yao each gave him a watch and a pair of boots, while Liang Yue reciprocated with a purple gemstone brooch from the Motto Treasury and a bracelet inlaid with a shard of blue diamond. Teacher Shizuka, Nanlik Xiang, and the others naturally received gifts as well. However, as Liang Yue's villagers, they have always had open access to the village's underground treasury. Those gold, silver, treasures, and jewelry that ordinary people consider extremely precious are not considered rare in their eyes. After all, these jewels are just a pile of decorations, and you get tired of seeing them too much. As for the things in the real world, they had just teamed up and gone on a shopping spree in New York City a while ago, so some so-called gifts and accessories were not surprising at all. Therefore, after racking his brains, Liang Yue ultimately resorted to the system store. Fortunately, the system store was quite helpful as Christmas approached. Christmas gift pack, a festive gift pack from the DNF world. The gift pack contains a set of randomly styled costumes and a small amount of magic potions. This costume is a special item. It is light as nothing, does not affect movement when worn, does not block the line of sight, does not take up an equipment slot, does not add to encumbrance, cannot be damaged, and can be equipped with a thought. The selling price is 5,000 points. 5,000 for a set. 10 people is a full 50,000 points. Liang Yue was even uncharacteristically generous to Rachel, the little female eagle, and bought her a copy. As for Liang Yue himself, he also wanted to test his luck under the excitement, so he bought one along the way. That's 11 sets, 55,000. With this, Liang Yue spent a full half of his points, and he felt so distressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. However, seeing the surprised looks on the faces of the girls after receiving the gifts, he felt that it seemed worth it. In fact, as early as when Liang Yue's big white drug suit was released, teacher Shizuka, Takashiro Saya, and others had set their sights on costumes when they learned from him that this special outfit could actually increase attributes. A group of young ladies became even more envious. The attributes of the head part are the same as the hat. 5. Choose one then. The attribute of the top part is a skill level +1 under the DNF system. Lower body parts, 280 points of health per magic power limit, or 660 physical defense. Chest part, 660 magic defense, 30 points of resistance to all abnormal states, 5% attack speed, or 160 points of stiffness. Attribute belt part, ice, fire, light, and dark. 4 attribute resistance +25 respectively. 4% evasion rate, or encumbrance limit. Shoes, 45 points of strength or stamina. Attribute, 5% movement speed, or 40 points of jumping power. Skin, reduces 3% of physical or magic damage, increases stiffness. Attribute by 80 points after wearing the entire 8-piece set. The entire costume will also have a combined attribute bonus. They are 20 points for each of the 4 dimensions, 900 points for health and magic power, and 1% for attack, movement, and casting speed. In addition, there is also 136 magic power recovery speed, and a small amount of encumbrance limit. It can be said that as long as they are reasonably matched, the martial arts skills that these young ladies have practiced for a full 1 or 2 years may not have as many attributes as this costume. Even if this kind of costume has no potential and the attributes are fixed, it is definitely a great help to them. Mom, I want to talk to you about something. After seeing off Aunt Liu and Lu Yao, Liang Yue almost immediately pulled his mother's arm and came to a separate study. After secretly investigating the surroundings, he turned his attention to the old lady. What's the matter? So mysterious. The mother was holding the unusually quiet little diamond, gently tugging at its ears, and asked, "Cough that, your son?" "I actually have a secret." Looking at his mother's quiet and beautiful face, Liang Yue suddenly didn't know how to start. After thinking for a while, he stammered, "What's the matter? Tell me, I'm listening." "That is, I got a great opportunity a while ago." "Opportunity?" "Yes, explain clearly." "That is, I got a private world like in novels, a portable small world." "Yes, then you should hide it well. Don't let anyone know, and don't tell your Aunt Liu also. My world is more special. I want to take you in to see if that's fine. I also want to see what's so rare." Coughed. "But, if you want to enter that world, you have to add a mark to you in advance, or say, an identity." "That's fine, add it." "I really added it, Mom." Different from inviting villagers in the heavens and worlds, if Liang Yue wants to send invitations to people in reality, he doesn't need to go through the system interface, just directly choose with his own thoughts. So, in his mother's slightly expectant eyes, Liang Yue instantly sent a villager invitation to her. As a result, the moment it was sent out, this guy regretted it. "Damn, how could I forget? The elemental mystery skill is still there. If Mom really accepts it, wouldn't she have a headache for a whole week?" It's just that under this situation, Liang Yue couldn't stop it at all. Not to mention whether he could withdraw the invitation himself. Even if he could, Mom didn't seem to give him this time, because almost a moment his invitation was sent, the opposite mother agreed to the invitation, and he also received the information that the 11th villager had joined. "Mom, are you okay?" Liang Yue hurriedly squatted down at this time, leaned to his mother's knee, and then watched her face with a worried look, but she saw that except for frowning slightly at the moment she agreed, she quickly returned to normal, and never showed any other strange expressions. "Mom, do you have a headache?" Seeing this, Liang Yue subconsciously stretched out his hands and rubbed his mother's temples, but before he could rub it a few times, he was slapped back, and then said with interest, "It's okay, but the elemental mystery skill that comes with your villager certification is a bit interesting, eh? Looking at you, have you already received it?" How is this possible? Other people have a headache for a full 3 days when sharing this skill. Even I had a headache for a whole day, because I'm stronger than you." Looking at his mother's taken for granted appearance, Liang Yue suddenly felt his liver and gallbladder tremble. And after staggering, he sat on the carpet with strong self-confidence. "This is Mu Zhao Huang identity, strength, agility, constitution, energy, bloodline, talent, abilities, immortality, skills, elemental mysteries, cultivation methods." Through the information link of the villagers, after seeing the question marks in his mother's attribute bar that almost killed the entire panel, Liang Yue was immediately sincerely convinced and prostrated himself on the ground. After a while, he came back to his senses and continued to squat in front of his mother's knees, looking up at her and asking, "Mom, what is your old man's identity?" "I am your mother." Saying that, the mother gently stroked his hair, and a look of love appeared on her face. "Then since you are so strong, why am I so weak?" Liang Yue heard the words, and immediately asked unwillingly, "Because you are sealed." "Of course I know this. I actually want to ask, can you help me unseal it? This has to be done by yourself. Your current growth method is very good. Practice slowly. You know all about my affairs, old man." Chapter 282 One Ho Fashion. With a flash of light, Liang Yue brought his mother into the base world. Still at the top of the village library, the women who were originally playing the roles of maids and housekeepers in the outside manor had already quietly returned here now. They were all busy unpacking Christmas gift boxes. In just a short while, the young ladies had already changed into their new outfits. Teacher Jing Xiang was dressed in a black and white panda cosplay outfit. Senior sister Zi's fashion was a palace dress with a large red background and black silk patterns. Alvin was wearing a high-slit crimson evening dress, her blonde hair piled high, cosplaying as Sophia, the tavern owner from DNF. Yang Bu, who changed into a pink spring dress, looking very charming and cute. Xiao Zhao became a punk girl in black, with dark blue pigtails and smoky makeup on her face. Non Lixiang's attire at this time was a sexy cowgirl in denim shorts, wearing a baseball cap and biting a lollipop in her mouth. Aunt Behizi is now wearing her lake blue bohemian long dress, with a yellow round hat on her head, which perfectly matches her temperament, all of which are goddess-like. The little girl Nana's clothes at this time are in the same series as Behizi, wearing a small red bohemian long dress and a black round hat, looking like a little princess. Gao Cheng Saya, the little pink-haired girl, seemed to be very unlucky. Like teacher Jinxiang, she drew an animal-themed cosplay outfit, and it was also in black and white. However, compared to teacher Jinxiang's cute panda outfit, this little girl drew a honey badger cosplay outfit. Although the system had already made it cute, Liang Yue could still feel a strong resentment and shame from her. In addition, the little female eagle Rachel seemed to have gained a lot at this time. She had transformed into a small frost dragon, soaring in the sky, making a triumphant cackling sound. Clap clap clap. Come everyone, come over. Let me introduce you, this is my mom. A super strong person, the system can't even judge her strength. Liang Yue clapped his hands, gathered everyone over, and then introduced his mother to them. When a group of young ladies heard this, they were immediately stunned and surprised, but they quickly bowed to their mother and said, hello, madam, you don't have to be so restrained. I know that you have a good relationship with Liang Yue. Everything will remain the same in the future. With that, the old mother turned her head, put the Vajra in her hand into Liang Yue's arms, and looked at him and continued, when you see your Aunt Liu tomorrow, just say I went on a picnic. After she finished speaking, the old lady turned her head and smiled at the women, and then took a step and disappeared without a trace. Liang Yue, the women. Immediately afterwards, Liang Yue sent a message through the villagers' communication platform and asked, Mom, where are you going? There are indeed some special features in your world. I need to retreat for a while to study the rules here. Also, I found that you seem to lack magic cultivation methods. This should be regarded as a meeting gift from me to you. Don't bother me when you have nothing to do. Just as the old mother replied to the message, Liang Yue suddenly felt a weight in his hand. He looked down and saw that there was actually a hardcover book about 3 fingers thick. Then Mom, take care, especially when you are in seclusion. Be careful and pay attention to filling the surroundings with torches. This world will refresh monsters, and some can even teleport. After the message was sent, the old mother did not reply, but Liang Yue knew that she had already seen it because the message now showed that it had been read. Madam, does she not like us? Xiao Zhao looked over with some sadness at this time. With a bit of worry in her tone, the others looked at each other, and most of them looked a little depressed. That's not true. My mom has always been like that. Her temperament has always been a little cold. She is actually very satisfied with you. With that, Liang Yue raised the book in his hand and shook it in front of the women, and then continued with a smile. Really, of course. As soon as Liang Yue finished speaking, the book was impatiently taken over by Alvin. Judging from the elf princess's actions just now, her mobility has indeed improved a lot after being dressed in a costume. Hey girls, I haven't had time to read it yet. Looking at the young ladies who were so excited after getting the book that they immediately turned around and went to the dining table, huddled together, and couldn't wait to watch it. Liang Yue twitched the corners of his mouth at this time and reminded them, what are you still looking at? Hurry up and practice your Xianxinguang. Gao Cheng Saya opened a pair of dead fish eyes at this time, turned her head with a mohawk head of the flat-headed brother, and looked at him unhappily. What I mean is, why don't we just use a printer and scanner to make multiple copies, so that everyone can have one? I advise you not to do that. Why? Because both of those things can be backdoored. With your current identity and the attention of the high-level Americans, I can almost be sure that all the electrical appliances in your home that can be connected to the internet probably have backdoors. Once you use those things to store some important documents, it is equivalent to announcing intelligence to those people. Okay, you are right. Soon, even Rachel, who was originally flying in the sky showing off her ice dragon suit, flapped her wings and flew down, relying on her height advantage to squeeze her eagle head into the crowd from above. Looking at the eager appearance of the women, Liang Yue also shook his head silently with a smile. In fact, what Gao Cheng Saya said was right. At this time, his main energy should still be placed on the cultivation of martial arts. There is no need for magic cultivation for the time being. With a magic card in hand, the magic skills that Liang Yue currently has are enough for him to squander. He walked to the edge of the top floor of the library and sat cross-legged on the wall looking at the setting sun that was gradually falling in the distance. Just as he was about to start practicing, Liang Yue suddenly remembered that his Christmas gift box seemed to have not been opened yet, so he quickly turned to his sleeve and took the gift box out of the storage space. He pulled the wrapping tape on the gift box, and the box opened by itself in an instant. And a bright light spewed out from inside. Immediately afterwards, Liang Yu's mind was filled with the system's prompt: a set of Wonho cosplay costumes, 30 Raimi's blessings, 17 golden wool, 51 golden goat milk. Not bad, but this Wonho. Oh, it turns out to be the Wonho. The sect in Jian Wang 3, after selecting the upper garment skill to elemental mystery and directly adding the attributes of the other parts to the 4 dimensions, Liang Yu couldn't wait to put on this costume: a neat double-layered white right lapel inner lining, black satin leggings, covered with a black gauze robe embroidered with silver patterns, with a faint ink color at the neckline of the robe, the same series of silver-threaded cloth boots, plus a silver belt that looks like a butterfly inscription, with tassels hanging below behind the jet black long hair. A silver hair crown with a butterfly inscription pattern is also tied. The overall style of this fashion is inclined to short and tight clothing, but it reveals a sense of luxury with a flip of his sleeves. Liang Yu placed a full-length mirror in front of him, twisted left and right to look at it, and then nodded in satisfaction. Not bad, very suitable. Chapter 283 Chunyang Ziksha. Dawn approached, and as the purple hues at the edge of the sky slowly faded, Liang Yu's cultivation seemed to be reaching a peak above his head. A purple lotus, almost tangible, swayed and stretched, welcoming the morning light as he practiced the innate skill and delved deeper. The ability to absorb the first ray of purple energy from the horizon and convert it for his own use did not disappear. Instead, its efficiency became even more remarkable. 3 new leaves were slowly growing from the lotus's stem, 1 large and 2 small, still somewhat tender, yet full of vitality. With these strange sounds, even the surrounding air seemed to be affected, emitting waves of tremors and intense heat observed from afar. Under the glow of the dawn, wisps of air around Liang Yu were constantly twisting and slowly rising, only to be shattered by the vibrations produced by the violent electric arcs. This cycle repeated, to the point where even the innate purple haze true ki that surrounded him underwent some changes. However, this was a positive transformation, besides imbuing the true ki with a hint of lightning and fire, making it slightly more violent. The constant tremors and high temperature burning refined and purified the innate purple haze true ki. Imperceptibly, it greatly improved the quality and conversion speed of his true ki. The various tiny impurities within the true ki were continuously removed and tempered in this process of evaporation and vibration at the same time. It constantly forced Liang Yu to focus more intently on controlling and mastering the true ki, which was on the verge of dissipating during this tempering process. This compelled him to concentrate and focus all his attention whenever he meditated, cultivated, absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and transformed it into innate true ki. But after a period of adaptation, Liang Yu clearly felt that his innate true ki had become more solid, purer, and easier to control. However, the addition of the innate characteristics of lightning and fire did not completely lead his innate purple haze true ki down a path of violence and dominance, because, in the martial arts innate understanding of thunder, firewood, wood is the foundation of everything. It is also the basis for the long-term existence of the former two. It was precisely because of the support and nourishment of this charred wooden stump that lightning and fire could intertwine and wrap around it so recklessly, and the small sapling nurtured by the combined force of the 3 was the essence of their collision and entanglement. Compared to the intense and flamboyant appearance of lightning and fire, the small sapling was inconspicuous, carrying a hint of warmth in its weakness, emphasizing a silent and gentle connection, carrying a tenderness, yet a vigorous vitality. It slowly merged with itself, deeply rooted. It fused with a purple haze true ki within Liang Yu's body, which was originally characterized by healing and resilience. Complementing each other, it was precisely because of the presence of this small sapling, representing the characteristics of the wood element, that the innate true ki within Liang Yu's body was so stable, maintaining its original advantages while adding the domineering intent of lightning and fire. More commendable was that these changes and characteristics were in harmony with Liang Yu's own temperament, which was definitely a rare fate. I wonder if Wang Chongyang practiced it himself after creating this purple haze divine skill. I think there's a high probability that he didn't. After slowly finishing his practice, Liang Yu stretched out his 5 fingers, and a ball of innate purple haze true ki, as brilliant as the morning glow, immediately appeared in his palm. After being tempered by the innate skill and further enhanced, the original purple haze true ki did not disappear completely, thereby completely transforming into the appearance of the innate skill. Purple haze was still purple haze. The current cultivation was only to imbue it with some of the characteristics of the innate skill. The appearance of this situation naturally puzzled Liang Yu greatly because, based on his understanding and control of this innate skill, the true ki refined by this divine skill, although it had a very high degree of purity, was good at healing, and was powerful, just like the innate purple haze in front of him. However, The orthodox innate skill true key should be wide. That guy probably derived the low-level purple haze divine skill after practicing the innate skill, based on his own understanding of cultivation, but when it comes to serious cultivation, Taoist Wang probably wouldn't bother with it effort anymore. After all, he should have already been at the innate realm at that time. Recultivating purple haze would be meaningless to him. Thinking of this, Liang Yue couldn't help but have a thought. The innate purple haze true key in his palm immediately turned into strands, constantly circling and dancing between his fingers, and finally returned to his body. So, I have become a test subject in disguise? The Mount Hua sect has been established for only 100 years, and I have never heard of anyone who can cultivate the purple haze divine skill to the innate level. Only Fen Qingyang emerged, and his breakthrough to the innate realm relied on the Duyu Nine Swords. In this way, it is estimated that Wang Chongqing did not expect this situation to occur. In fact, judging from the color alone, the current innate purple haze true key is still somewhat different from Liang Yue's original purple haze true key before practicing the innate skill. Although the original purple haze true key was also as brilliant as the clouds, the overall appearance was somewhat dark, tending towards purple-red. Even after advancing to the innate realm and being nourished by the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, it was still the same. But after being tempered by the innate skill, the current innate purple haze true key seemed to be covered with a layer of bright pink. The darkness was completely gone, and there was a feeling as if it was about to be illuminated by the sun. Thinking of this, Liang Yue's gaze unconsciously looked towards the horizon, which was gradually breaking through the dawn and beginning to become brilliant at a speed visible to the naked eye. Suddenly, his expression changed, and his heart was enlightened. With a flick of his sleeve, the Pure Yang divine skill was taken from the bookshelf of the library. Since it is said that the purple haze divine skill is a Haoshan, acquired, technique derived by Wang Chongqing from the innate skill, then it is also inspired by the innate skill. Could it be that the Pure Yang divine skill of the Chu Chuji lineage represents another line of thought of his? Thinking of this, a bright light suddenly burst out from Liang Yue's eyes, and he couldn't wait to flip through the secret manual in his hand. Creak. A soft sound. Yuriko, Alwan and others then slowly filed out of the small house behind him, still wearing the fashion outfits they had just selected from the Christmas gift box yesterday. After being enlightened by the magic cultivation method left by their mother, these young ladies have now found the correct cultivation path. Under the joy of hunting, the martial arts true key was temporarily put aside. The whole night was spent by the girls on the cultivation of magic. Even if Liang Yue didn't turn around at this time, he could judge from the excitement and joy on their bodies that everyone's cultivation last night must have gone smoothly. The cultivation method left by his mother was indeed very magical. The condensed magic power would be directly stored in the cultivator's upper dantian, which is the position of the brow center. It coincided with the position of Liang Yue's magic heart, and would not conflict with the martial arts true key in the lower dantian if he could master it skillfully. Liang Yue believed that the cultivation of martial arts and magic might not be able to run at the same time. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284. Small Fireball, Big Fireball and Firebomb. Liang Yujin, we're going to do a dungeon. Want to come with us? No, thanks. I caught a spark of inspiration while cultivating last night and want to study it some more. Be careful and don't forget to bring Little Diamond with you. Okay, goodbye then. After eating and drinking their fill, and cleaning up, the group of young ladies once again embarked on their daily dungeon run. Liang Yue himself continued to stay at the dining table in the library, eating fruit while leisurely flipping through the secrets of the Pure Yang divine skill. Subconsciously, he glanced at the clock and realized that it was only the second half of the night in the real world, and there was still plenty of time before dawn. It has to be said that after the system permissions were upgraded and the time flow rate between the stronghold world and the real world increased to 5:1, it did provide Liang Yue with a lot of convenience, and it was precisely with this convenient help that, over the past half-month or so, teacher Jingxiang, senior sister Z, and the others had already ventured into the dungeon hundreds of times through constant challenges, practice, and coordination. Even without Liang Yue's participation, they could now steadily and reliably navigate the zombie mine, moving back and forth without fear. Even when encountering a zombie mage, under the bombardment of the chaotic waves of lightning spells, they could use the terrain, true energy, speed, bows and arrows, and modern firearms to push their way through. Even if they encountered the zombie mine's final boss, the Corpse King, After losing the advantage of constantly respawning zombie minions that could still use kiting tactics to slowly grind it to death in the past period of time, Liang Yue alone had taken down no less than 20 Corpse King bosses in the dungeon runs. He participated in a large number of equipment, advanced skill books, gold coins, ores, and other items were continuously dropped. Even though these dropped items were prioritized for the group of young ladies, Liang Yue still gained a lot of duplicate skills that they didn't need, like basic swordsmanship, mental warfare, small fireball, large fireball, lightning spell, offensive swordsmanship, assassination swordsmanship, a whole bunch of skills that sounded good but had limited practical use. The attribute bonuses weren't much, but they were better than nothing. Among these, Liang Yue was most concerned about those few magic skills, especially large fireball and lightning spell. One could cause area of effect damage in reality, and although the range was limited, it was very valuable for reference. The other was a highly practical lightning type magic spell. The disadvantage was that the release speed was a bit slow, but it provided a good outlet for the abundant magic power in his body. However, based on the idea of being prepared for anything, learning sooner or later, and being able to use them sooner or later, the young ladies still accepted everything that came their way regardless of any professional restrictions like physical or magical. Anyway, although the villagers couldn't level up, they were very open to skill learning, so almost everything that could be learned was learned by this group of people. Now it's good. With his mother's magic cultivation method, everything has finally begun to fall into place, even though they were just starting to practice. And the young ladies' total magic power was still very low. Only a tiny bit. They could still chug potions. They had hoarded a large number of red and blue potions when they were doing dungeons before, and now they could finally put them to use. Liang Yue could almost imagine the scene of them running rampant and wreaking havoc in the zombie cave with their many skills and supplies. Go wild. Only after this wave of excitement passes will you be able to calm down and carefully consider your own development path. Indeed, this series of skills came relatively easily for everyone, but the skills in Legend were almost all known for having no potential. There were only 3 levels in total. If you want to increase the power of the skill, you can only rely on the improvement of the character level and the blessing of high-level top-quality equipment, but these 2 points are an insurmountable boundary for the young ladies. The reason is naturally very clear, that is, the experience value in MA can only be used as consumables for enchanting, and cannot be used to improve the character level. As for the equipment aspect, the best of the best in this stronghold world are basically on Liang Yue. After all, I have what others don't. Nangguang Liu Xiang does have a pair of those dual pistols. This pair of dual pistols should be from the DNF world and can be used to increase magic attack power, so among the girls, her attack power has always been the highest. Apart from this, the most advanced equipment in everyone's hands is undoubtedly the Forager series. In the past half month or so, the system wall has also performed very well, and it has actually spawned a furnace building in the Forager series with this. Special materials such as steel and royal steel can also be forged, but after the girls' equipment level was upgraded to the Frost Greatsword, they were still stuck there due to the material gap. Fortunately, with equipment such as the Frost Sword, Frost Bow, and Frost Pickaxe in hand, they already had enough attack power. It was because of this that teacher Jinxiang and others could unscrupulously sweep the zombie mine. But the advantages provided by these equipment are only temporary after all, and there will always be a day when they are outdated and targeted. The many skills of the Legends series are not enough to support them to go too far on the road to becoming stronger. A reasonable combination and a dedicated cultivation path are the ultimate choices for the young ladies. He understood this principle from the beginning. Although Liang Yue himself has learned many skills in this system, his purpose is only to find a breakthrough for himself. For example, both are fireball techniques, and the Legends series is divided into small fireball and large fireball, and in the last few pages of Evergreen skill, a fireball technique is also recorded between the two systems. The skills of the Legends series are undoubtedly easier to get started with and can quickly form combat power, but when it comes to the potential and growth of this spell, the fireball technique in the cultivation system can almost leave the former countless steps behind. Because, with a continuous improvement of Liang Yue's own cultivation realm and the quality of the true energy and spiritual power in his body, the fireball technique can continuously improve its power, and even derive other fire-type spells. The large and small fireball techniques in the Legends system can only be 2 fireballs with relatively fixed power. However, as both are primary spells of the fire type, there are actually many commonalities between the two. It is precisely because of this that Liang Yue values this small skill with only 3 levels of potential as of today. Thanks to the hints and inspiration of the large and small fireball, lightning skills, he has successfully learned the fireball technique in Palm Thunder recorded in the back of Evergreen skill, and, The skill of elemental mysteries also harvested a wave of proficiency along the way. Chapter 285 Christmas Gifts. Aunt Liu, my mom said last night that she was going on a trip. She left after saying that, and now I don't know where she is. The next morning, when everyone came to the living room for breakfast, Liang Yue explained to Aunt Liu across from her with a somewhat embarrassed expression, "It's okay, your mom is just like that. She does whatever she wants. Going out to travel late at night, if it were anyone else, I would definitely think they were lying, but it's perfectly normal for your mom." Aunt Liu smiled after hearing this, and didn't mind it. The head nurse Lu Yao next to her was only focused on eating and drinking. After feeling Liang Yue looking at her, she raised her head, picked up a napkin and wiped her mouth. "Your bread is delicious, as are the apples and this jam. If you like it, take more with you when you leave. It's not anything rare anyway." "Okay, Aunt Liu, this is for you. Inside is a special medicine specifically for treating AIDS, along with a corresponding formula and process. I think this will be useful to you after finishing the meal and sitting for a while." Aunt Liu took Sister Lu Yao and proposed to leave after sending the two of them into their car and gifting them a large box of bread, various fruits, and Stardew Valley brand jam. Liang Yue took out a palm-sized box from his storage space. Then, with a solemn expression, he handed it to Aunt Liu. This kind of special medicine was something that was refreshed from the system while a few days ago it's naturally useless to Liang Yue himself, but it can have an extremely large impact on ordinary people, the entire society, and even the country, and it's beneficial to the country and the people. Moreover, it costs 500 points and comes with a pharmaceutical formula. It's not expensive at all, so Liang Yue was naturally happy to buy it and give it to Aunt Liu, and then have her transfer it to the relevant Huaxia departments for research and favor. Really? Aunt Liu's face suddenly showed a look of astonishment when she heard this. After taking the small box, her eyes were still looking at Liang Yue's old face, as if she wanted to see something from his expression. Lu Yao, the sidekick and head nurse on the other side, had also come to Aunt Liu's side at this time, looking at the palm-sized box with her eyes flickering. "As for the origin of this medicine, I can only say that I got it by chance. Anyway, I don't need it, so I'll give it to you, Aunt Liu, to deal with it. I don't care what happens, just consider it a little extra Christmas gift for you," Liang Yue said to Aunt Liu with a smile. "At this time, this extra gift of yours, if it's real, then the impact will be too great. I wouldn't dare to deal with it casually, but Liang Yue, you can take this thing out, which shows that you care about the country when the time comes. Monetary compensation is a small matter. In terms of some resources, they will also try their best to serve you. Alice, I just don't know if you can use it." After putting the small box into her pocket, Aunt Liu came closer and stroked Liang Yue's hair, with a face full of love. "You've grown up, take good care of yourself." After watching Aunt Liu and Lu Yao drive away, Liang Yue returned to the villa. The group of young ladies at home had also taken off their maid and professional attire and returned to their original appearances. At this time, they were gathered together, as if they were whispering about where to go to play later. After receiving the documents that Aunt Liu had sent before, the young ladies are now considered to have identities, so naturally they no longer need to be as cautious as before and be trapped in the manor all the time. Today is Christmas Day, which is the most lively festival in the United States. As a student studying in an American high school, Liang Yue has now officially entered his holiday period, which is commonly known as the winter vacation. This period will last a full month. I have to say, American students are really happy. Ring ring ring. Just after returning to the castle, the phone in Liang Yue's pocket suddenly rang. He took it out and saw that it was Tony Stark calling. "Hey Tony, did you receive the Christmas gift I sent you?" "Ooh, I was just about to tell you about this. Where did you get this thing, Liang Yue? It's so cool. Even the most daring spacesuit design wouldn't dare to go to this extent. Don't tell me that Huaxia's aerospace technology has developed to this level. I'm glad you like it, Tony. As for its origin, I'm sorry, I can only tell you that this is something I got by chance and has nothing to do with Huaxia." "Okay kid, if you don't want to say it, I won't ask. I really like your gift and I'm very surprised. By the way, you should have received the gift I sent, right? A full 3,000 acres of land." "Thank you Tony, you are so generous compared to what you gave me. It's not worth mentioning at all, buddy. I'm starting to wonder if I'm a little too stingy." "Forget it, I'll compensate you later. Do you have anything to say about this thin film spacesuit?" "That's enough. Wow, thank you again, Liang Yue. I really like your gift. It can help me a lot, really. Oh, by the way, Pepper also likes the ancient fruit wine you sent her, and she asked me to express her gratitude to you. I'm glad she likes it. Also, I have to remind you, Tony, Ms. Pepper is a good woman. You have to learn to cherish her. Of course I will cherish my pepper. What I mean is, maybe you should consider getting married, and then have a bunch of kids or something. Really, you're actually a little late at your age? Wow, I don't remember my old father's last name being Liang, buddy. As for the marriage thing, there are guests at home, Liang Yue. How about we chat next time? Okay, happy holidays. That's it, happy holidays, buddy. The gift that Liang Yue gave to Tony Stark wasn't a very precious thing. At least it was much cheaper than the AIDS special medicine he gave to Aunt Liu before mall price. You can get it for 300 points. This is a portable intelligent thin film spacesuit, which is the kind that Yondu put on Star-Lord to save him in the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 plot. Microelectric technology, temperature insulation, but not resistant to beating, automatically converts oxygen. Each run can last for an hour, and can be reused 10 times. It's a pity that this kind of spacesuit only has finished products for sale in the mall, and there is no corresponding technology. Liang Yue definitely can't produce it here. And Huaxia is probably in trouble too if you give it to Tony Stark. Maybe there's still some hope, so he borrowed flowers to offer to the Buddha, and directly bought 5 from the mall and gave them to Stark as Christmas gifts. It is estimated that with this dog tycoon's intelligence and the soul that is said to be cursed by knowledge, he should be able to research something valuable. Chapter 286. This villain is a bit watery. Knock, 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 knock. After knocking on the door for a long time without a response, Liang Yue, who was carrying a gift to make up for Elizabeth, couldn't help but reveal a hint of suspicion on his face. He took a step back and looked at the house number next to him again. Brick Street, 177A. That's right. Could it be that these mages don't see outsiders? It's just asking them to help forward a package. I'll leave immediately after sending it. It shouldn't be, right? Looking at the closed door in front of him, Liang Yue hesitated for a moment, and finally stretched out a magic palm towards the keyhole. In an instant, the Xiantian Zixia key permeated through the crack of the door, wrapped the handle inside, and then gently twisted it. Click. With a sound, the door opened. He walked in leisurely, but the scene that greeted him made him stunned. Inside the New York sanctum, there were many corpses lying scattered all over the hall. There were men, women, old and young, some even wearing smoky makeup. What's going on? Did Dormammu invade? It can't be such a coincidence, right? Looking at the scene in front of him, Liang Yue raised his eyebrows, his eyes flickered a few times, his gaze swept across the room, and with a flick of his sleeve, the beautifully packaged gift box was immediately put into the storage space. At the same time, he tapped his feet lightly, and his whole person instantly turned into a gray shadow, leaping up the stairs. However, before he had taken a few steps, this guy immediately flew back. Then, Liang Yue came to the corpses, slowly squatted down, and took off those strangely shaped 2-finger rings from their fingers. If Liang Yue guessed correctly, this thing should be called a sling ring. It can be used to open space portals, and with this thing, you can travel freely to all parts of the Earth, and even within the mirror dimension. Although he doesn't know how to use it yet, it's better to be prepared. Only after taking off all the sling rings from the corpses in the hall did Liang Yue stand up with satisfaction, listen for a while, and then continue to walk up the stairs. When passing by a showroom, magical items were placed on display stands or in display cabinets. With a sweep of his eyes, Liang Yue even found Doctor Strange's dark red cloak of levitation. Forcing himself to suppress the urge to sweep everything here, this guy ultimately only took off the sling rings from the corpses lying on the ground. Then, following the sporadic traces of battle, he continued forward. Soon, Liang Yue came to a somewhat dim corridor, and at the end of this corridor, there were several windows that looked quite extraordinary at a glance. At this time, there were many corpses lying on the steps under the windows. Liang Yue had just stepped forward a few steps, and before he had time to bend down to pick up the spoils, the scenery outside one of the windows suddenly changed rapidly from high snow peaks to tranquil forest seas, then to raging deep blue seas, and finally stopped in a continuous desert. Immediately afterwards, a person fell out from inside. With a terrified scream, this person finally rolled down the steps. Seeing this, Liang Yue picked him up from the ground after thanking him. This somewhat embarrassed man immediately reacted, and then turned his head sharply, looking at him with a bit of vigilance on his horse-like face. I'm a courier. I accidentally saw a murder case here. Hey buddy. Do you want me to help call the police? Liang Yue looked at the other party's face, which was at least 90% similar to Benedict Cumberbatch, and subconsciously looked at his scarred hands, and immediately understood in his heart. At the same time, he felt a bit of worry for Elizabeth, who was also a mage and now in London. A courier? You leave quickly. This place, hiss, this is not a place you should come to. Hearing this, Benedict Cumberbatch's face suddenly showed a bit of astonishment, but at this time he had no time to distinguish anything, grabbed Liang Yue and walked quickly in the direction he came from. Is there anyone else here? Ai Wu body here, they should all be dead. There are quite a few corpses lying in the hall below. If there were anyone, they should have come out when I came in. Looking at this horse-faced Benedict Cumberbatch's nervous appearance of looking around and shouting from time to time, Liang Yue couldn't help but remind him, are you really a courier? Hearing this, Benedict Cumberbatch immediately turned his head to look at him and asked, with a strong look of doubt on his face, it seems that this little brother has finally come to his senses. To be precise, I came to deliver a Christmas gift. Just yesterday, I received a gift from my girlfriend, and the address is here. However, if I remember correctly, her home should be in London. The address of the sender is here? Are you sure? What's your girlfriend's name? Elizabeth Stewart. Sorry, I haven't heard of it. Looks like you should be a newbie. Elizabeth Stewart, a witch from the current British royal family, is not a magic practitioner in the same system as the Supreme Sanctum. Chinese martial artist, it's not too late for you to leave now. As he spoke, just as Liang Yue and Benedict Cumberbatch walked to the staircase in the hall on the first floor, a circle emitting sparks suddenly appeared out of thin air from the doorway. 5 figures walked out from inside. While walking, a smoky-eyed man at the head was carrying his hands behind his back and raised his head to say to him, it's Caecilius. They actually chased after us. You go quickly, quickly, pop 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 pop, accompanied by a burst of short and intense gunfire. Before the words of Benedict Cumberbatch next to him could finish, the 4 people opposite were directly headshot by Liang Yue. Blood mist sprayed, and red and white things splashed everywhere. The smoky-eyed man at the head was pierced through the chest and heart by a bullet. Liang Yue did this on purpose. If he guessed correctly, the Caecilius on the opposite side should be the leader of the villains in the Doctor Strange plot. On the end, he also killed the Ancient One, allowing her to break free from the shackles of the flesh and summon the ruler of the dark dimension, Dormammu. Facing such a villain, he naturally had nothing to say, just shoot him down directly. The reason why he didn't directly hit the head was because Liang Yue considered the villain's status in this plot and deliberately left him a little time to act tough. In his last words, our Lord will not let you go. After speaking, Caecilius covered his chest and fell to the ground with a look of resentment and unwillingness. These last words are a bit too cliché. Hearing the other party's words, Liang Yue shook his head with some disappointment. Looking back at Benedict Cumberbatch on the side, this young man was already too shocked to speak, his mouth wide open. However, in fact, this matter cannot be entirely blamed on him, because according to the development of the plot, Caecilius and his gang had just attacked the magic sanctum located in the Himalayas before, and before attacking there, they had already destroyed the London sanctum, causing huge losses to the mage community. Benedict Cumberbatch, who had not yet advanced to become the Sorcerer Supreme, had previously been chased around in embarrassment by the other party and could only run for his life as a result. Now, they had only just met, and in just half a second, before Benedict Cumberbatch could finish his own words, they were shot down on the spot by Liang Yue in a burst of gunfire. The turning point in this was a bit too sudden. You still need more experience, young man. Looking at Benedict Cumberbatch's appearance, Liang Yue smiled and patted him on the shoulder, and then turned his head to look at the corpses lying all over the floor below, and then continued with some regret. In addition, you mages are still a bit too closed off. Take weapons like guns, why not try to integrate them into your system? If you had this in your hands at the time, at least there wouldn't be so many casualties. Hearing Liang Yue's words, Benedict Cumberbatch was stunned. However, at this moment, another circle emitting sparks appeared out of thin air, and the location was not far from the two of them. Immediately afterwards, a bald man and a black man walked out from inside. The clothes on the two of them were similar to those around them, the only difference was the color. In comparison, Liang Yue seemed to be the odd one out here. It seems that my retirement time has been postponed because of you, Mr. Liang Yue. The Ancient One glanced at Caecilius's corpse at the bottom of the stairs, and then said to him with a bit of calm smile, greetings, Sorcerer Supreme, I'm actually here to deliver a Christmas gift to my girlfriend. Looking at the bald boss in front of him, Liang Yue smiled, and then with a flick of his sleeve, he took out the exquisitely packaged gift box from before. As for why the other party could recognize him, he was not surprised at all. After all, the time stone was in her hands. Once involved in the plot, Liang Yue will inevitably deal with them in the future. Is it for Elizabeth Stewart? Don't worry, I will personally hand it over to her. Hearing this, the Ancient One reached out and took the gift box. Thank you, Sorcerer Supreme. To be honest, when I was young, I always wanted to run to the Himalayas to join you and learn magic from you, but later, because of some personal reasons, It was delayed. It's not too late for you to learn now, really? Of course. Wow, actually, the kind of magic I want to learn doesn't need to be too profound. As long as it's like you guys before, you can draw circles in space and open space portals to that extent. This shouldn't be difficult for you. Actually, Mr. Strange behind you can teach you. You can really teach me, Benedict Cumberbatch. Mr. Strange, of course, but before that, can you help me heal my hands? This doesn't seem difficult. Chapter 287 finally learned how to open the door. Stephen Strange was originally a highly skilled neurosurgeon, born with a pair of hands so steady they never trembled, and one day, he screwed up, driving his supercar on a wild ride to attend some high society party. After the car accident, his hands were crippled forever, although he was barely saved. After experiencing steel pins, bone reconnection, nerve severance, and various muscle contusions, his hands were no longer as steady as before, trembling almost constantly, seeking salvation. Dr. Strange, who had always disdained faith and mysticism, began to travel around, seeking spiritual sustenance. Eventually, near the Himalayas, he met Baron Mordo, and through his guidance, he came before the bald-headed guru, the Ancient One. As a result, the Ancient One, perhaps out of consideration for tempering and cultivating Strange, did not directly repair his hands, but constantly guided him to find the answers himself. The purpose should be to have Strange seek himself through trials, preparing to become the next Sorcerer Supreme. Of course, although Liang Yue understood the Ancient One's intentions, he didn't care about them. Moreover, for Liang Yue, treating this type of fracture damage was actually not difficult. Back in the world of Heaven, Sword and Dragon Saber, the Wudang hero Yin Lighting had also had all the bones and meridians in his body broken, paralyzed in bed for more than 10 years as a result. After applying a course of black jade regenerating ointment, he started jumping around. In a few months, even the scars left on his face by Caecilius's pursuit were completely restored. Strange looked excited and wept with joy. However, after experiencing the previous hardships and understanding the truth of this world, this once highly skilled neurosurgeon obviously understood that he could no longer return to his previous life. Sunrise and sunset, Liang Yue didn't ride his little motorcycle back to the manor in a hurry until night fell. Thanks to the Christmas gift from the big dog, Tony Stark, the area of the Xavier Manor has now expanded several times without spending a penny. From the original manor area to the north, a full 3,000 acres of land have now been incorporated into their own sphere of influence. To the north of Xavier Manor is an undeveloped temperate primeval forest, which includes a stream flowing out of the Great Lakes region and a small area of hills and mountains. Liang Yue also specifically investigated this aspect after buying the manor. This should have originally belonged to the New York state government, and was not within the scope of private land transactions, and I don't know how Tony Stark got it, but who cares? The big dog is our local snake in America, and his class is very high. So naturally he has a lot of energy that ordinary people can't imagine, as long as the documents are sufficient and the origin is legitimate for his own land. Liang Yue-kun, you're late. We're preparing to go to the next dungeon now. It was only just night in the real world, but it was already the morning of the third day in the base world at this time. The girls had already eaten breakfast, tidied up, and were preparing to team up and brush up on a wave of zombie kings when Liang Yue came in. He could barely send the young ladies off. Haha, today I learned a space teleportation technique from a group of mages. Here, for you. Smiling triumphantly at everyone, Liang Yue then turned to his sleeves, and 10 mystic rings suddenly appeared on the dining table. Space teleportation. When everyone heard the words, they immediately became interested. They took a ring each, even the little female eagle Rachel was no exception, and then looked over with anticipation. This is called the mystic ring. The principle of that kind of space teleportation is to use this special tool to open a space portal with magic as the connection point. However, I estimate that this method of movement should only be used in the real world. As he said, Liang Yue put the mystic ring on the middle 2 fingers of his left hand, and waved his right hand in the air with magic. Sure enough, the door opening technique that he had practiced very skillfully in the afternoon could not work at all now. No matter how the magic was urged, not even a spark could be aroused. In other words, this door opening technique should only be unique to the mixed American comics world in reality, and does not have universality if you want to successfully display it in other heavens and worlds. Liang Yue may have to strengthen his learning, understanding and application of the space system. It seems I have to find some time to go to the New York temple system to study this aspect of knowledge. Seeing this, Liang Yue then secretly pondered in his heart, Liang Yue, how do you use this? Teach us quickly. With this, can't you travel everywhere for free? That's right. A few days ago I was thinking about going back to Japan to take a look. I don't know if Fujimi Academy exists in this world. That goes without saying, Even Takaname City doesn't exist, let alone Fujimi Academy. I originally wanted to just open a door and go over, but now I don't know where to locate it. Allah, how about locating it in Akihabara? I have a deep impression of the maid coffee shop there. Stupid. You must avoid the sight of ordinary people when opening the door, otherwise wouldn't it be exposed? Don't be afraid, just use an invisibility spell at that time. Should the space door also have a color? Huh? Is that so? In addition, what is the basis for opening the space door? The basis for opening the door is based on your understanding of space coordinates, or to put it simply, it is the places you have been to. As long as you can recall it in your mind, you can open the door. However, this is just the most basic quantitative method, and errors may occur in some special locations. Facing the questions from the girls, Liang Yue patiently answered them one by one, and then began to explain the specific method of opening the door to them. After this, the young ladies didn't go to the dungeon anymore, and directly dragged Liang Yue back to the real world and started to operate it in practice. Of course, at the beginning, they certainly couldn't do it overnight, and could only start practicing from the most basic, drawing spark circles in the void. However, as a group of warriors who have had considerable experience in energy manipulation for a long time, they will naturally not be as clueless as pure novices when using magic power. Even if they can't reach the exaggerated record of Liang Yue, who learned to open the door in just one afternoon, they already have enough innate advantages compared to ordinary people. In just 3 days, the elven princess Arwen, who has the highest magical talent among the girls, has already learned this door opening technique, and in the following week, the others also mastered this ability one after another. Even the giant eagle Rachel, because she practiced a magic power training method left by her mother, and relying on her wisdom that is no less than anyone else, she has now also learned her unique aerial hovering door opening. As for Liang Yue himself, in this week, in addition to occasionally guiding the young ladies in their cultivation, during the day, he spent most of his time in the library of the New York Temple. Since the New York Temple was slaughtered by Francis before, and no mages have been added temporarily, strange Benedict Cumberbatch has now been temporarily appointed as the curator there by the supreme mage. As the saying goes, it's easier to do things with acquaintances. Liang Yue naturally has no problem borrowing a book and studying it at this time. By the way, later even Arwen and others became regulars there. Of course, it is estimated that the Ancient One must have already greeted them before. As a reward for Benedict Cumberbatch, Liang Yue taught him the first few levels of the Great Hammer Fist body training method. The effect is only to limit the improvement of his physical fitness and body utilization efficiency. The ultimate peak he can reach is estimated to be comparable to Captain America as a group of weirdos who take melee mages as their struggle route. This is probably only to give him a little more self-defense means. Don't wait until you are fighting against the demons from another world, and then you remember that you don't know any melee skills. Chapter 288, Summoning the Beast. System: I want to draw a prize. At this time, more than a month had passed since Liang Yue returned from the world of the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, and the monthly prize draw count had naturally been refreshed. However, since the system permissions were upgraded and the system changed the interval for entering the worlds, Liang Yue was no longer as sensitive to the beginning of the month as before. In addition, he had been cultivating relatively hard recently, with a flow rate ratio of 1:5 between reality and the Stronghold world. Most of his time was spent practicing Xianqigong in the Stronghold world, comprehending the congenital thunder, fire, and wood, or reading various magic books in the New York Sanctum. After the number of prize draws was refreshed, he had overlooked it for several days. It shouldn't be really. It seems I've been a bit confused from practicing recently. As soon as Liang Yue's voice fell, that familiar prize draw turntable popped up in front of him. After scanning it up and down, he found that the selection items above were still varied and without any rules to follow, so he gave up struggling and directly said in a broken jar manner, "Start stop." Ling. Congratulations to the host for drawing the skill low kick. This skill comes from the DNF world and is a basic skill of the striker class disc. It seems my luck is really not good. Even the system is too lazy to introduce the skill I drew. Looking at the skill icon floating in front of him, Liang Yue subconsciously scratched his temple, and he had already prepared himself to be abused. Sure enough, in the next moment, the skill icon turned into a stream of light and drilled into his forehead. Liang Yue then closed his eyelids unconsciously, rubbing his head while feeling the skill's information and related cultivation methods. After a moment, he suddenly opened his eyes, and a gleam of light bloomed in his eyes. It seems I misunderstood. This skill is actually not bad. Low kick level 150. Current level 1. Basic skill of the striker class, delivering a high damage kick attack to the enemy's lower body, which can attack downed enemies and cause a relatively long period of stiffness to the hit enemy physical attack power. 513% plus 1270 attack speed increase rate. 0% proficiency. 0-100 a full 50 levels of growth potential. It seems that although it is a basic skill, it is actually similar to magic chasers, both of which can grow with any. Moreover, the initial attack power increase is also high, a full 5 times the percentage, plus thousands of fixed damage. After obtaining the new skill, Liang Yue's heart suddenly became a little excited, so he immediately sprinted and rushed into the zombie mine. This time, the zombies in the instance were out of luck, because Liang Yue's purpose in coming to the instance was very simple, which was to practice skills. Therefore, in the process of advancing through the entire mine, he either used low kick or magic chaser. The process of fighting monsters was basically like this. Facing the oncoming zombies, he would first use a low kick to directly break the opponent's ankle or knee joint. After suffering a 5-fold damage increase, plus more than 1,000 points of extra damage, the zombie was basically killed instantly. At this time, for those who happen to not die, Liang Yue would take advantage of the situation to add a magic chaser, directly blowing the target to pieces. In addition, in the zombie mine, there are many monsters whose appearance is very special, who will crawl out directly from the ground when the player approaches, accompanied by a series of weak and decadent howls. It seems very imposing in this empty and dark mine, but now, when facing Liang Yue, these zombies are actually the most miserable. Often they have just poked their heads out when Liang Yue directly kicks them in the head. Even if he encounters those zombie mages who release rapid light movies in the middle of the instance, this guy still ignores them and uses his congenital Zixa True Key to push through. Then, following this set of procedures, after completing the instance 3 times, I don't know if it was good luck or the drop rate in the instance increased. He actually dropped a rare skill from the Zombie King Summon Divine Beast. It is said that this is a skill that the young ladies have always wanted, but have never dropped. In addition, in this mine, Liang Yue also obtained 2 basic skill books for the assassin class, Stealth and Critical Strike. The stealth skill allows people to achieve the effect of breath convergence and semi-concealment in a non-combat state. It's a bit similar to the Thief class in online games, but in Liang Yue's opinion, it's not as useful as a Taoist's invisibility technique. Critical Strike is a very practical passive skill that can passively increase the player's critical strike damage. After triggering a critical strike, the critical strike effect will last for a certain period of time, which is said to increase a lot of damage. In addition, Liang Yue also found a seemingly familiar skill booklet, Yu Jinjing. It's been many years since I played Legend. Could it be that this Yu Jinjing is a skill for a newly added class damage reduction within 5 seconds, up to 80%? This is a tank. After completing the instance 3 times, Liang Yue almost immediately learned these skills standing in front of the instance door and digesting it for a while. He then couldn't help but feel curious. He narrowed his eyes slightly, slowly stretched his palm forward, and silently recited a few tongue-twisting spells. Along with the export of this magic formula, the magic power in his body also decreased by a small piece. In an instant immediately afterwards, I saw a piece of light golden smoke suddenly falling from the void, and finally hitting the ground. Between the smoke and dust, the flames and earth elements that were originally spreading in the surrounding heaven and earth seemed to be summoned and began to condense rapidly. Roar. About 10 seconds later, accompanied by a somewhat ethereal roar, a killing beast appeared in front of him like this. Taking a closer look, this killing beast was about 2 meters high with its 4 hooves on the ground, more than 3.5 meters long. Its tail was like a burning flame, and its whole body exuded surging high temperature. A thick layer of oil shell was condensed on the surface of the body, which looked a little bloated at first glance. Between the imaginary openings of the big mouth, the burning heat was surging in its body, reflecting this oil shell on the surface of the body and emitting bursts of red light. However, compared to the fire killing summoned in the regular Legend game, this one in the real world seems to have no wisdom, and every move needs to be controlled by Liang Yue, the caster. Moreover, this thing seems to not only hurt people, but if you are not careful, you may also hurt yourself. About 7 or 8, controlling this divine beast to come to him, ignoring the soil slag powder that kept falling from its body as it stepped. Liang Yue then came to this conclusion after stroking it with his hand: the speed at which earth and fire elements converge is not very fast. According to this efficiency, the attack speed of this elemental killing should be about 4 or 5 seconds. While this is similar to the situation of the level 1 summon divine beast skill in Legend, the attack speed is slow and the attack power is not high. It will become better after upgrading to level 2 or 3, but for my current situation, it can only be considered barely satisfactory. Moreover, in this mech world, I can't find NPCs like knife-wielding guards, so I can't quickly level up. However, the operating principle of this skill is very special. It can not only maintain the external form of this Killin, but also listen to the wisdom of the summoner in the game. This skill seems to be completed with a Taoist curse power, but now it has been changed by the system into an elemental array. Thinking of this, Liang Yue's eyes suddenly showed a bit of excitement looking at this special skill object standing next to him, breathing and breathing, which can vividly simulate the animal form. He slowly began to stroke his chin. If we extend this idea further, it would be quite interesting. Chapter 289 Elemental Kirin Beast. With a muffled bang sound, sparks flew, and dust filled the air as the originally burly elemental Kirin Beast, which looked somewhat imposing, instantly exploded into a pile of broken earth and slag. It actually exploded? This is because the balance within the elemental formation was broken, right? Following his previous train of thought, Liang Yue merely tried to integrate some extra fire elements into the interior of this elemental Kirin, and this summon, called a divine beast, immediately collapsed from the inside out amidst the scattered sparks. Liang Yue seemed thoughtful, and a hint of doubt couldn't help but appear on his face. However, it was quickly replaced by a relieved smile. Although I haven't researched any useful information yet, using this method to grind levels isn't bad. Summon Divine Beast level 1-3 current level 1-1 of the iconic skills of the legendary Taoist profession, summoning a fire-breathing divine beast to assist in battle. After being modified by the system, this skill has incorporated more ideas and possibilities of elemental magic proficiency. 6-300. Although his original intention was only to better understand the operating principle of this summon divine beast skill, and on this basis, try to make certain enhancements or changes, proficiency and the like, were actually an unexpected gain. Moreover, only casters like Liang Yue can easily inject extra elemental power into the divine beast's body by relying on the specific connection between themselves and the summoned creature. If it were someone else, the elemental Kirin beast would regard it as an attack and autonomously repel and defend against it. Whoosh! Soon, with Liang Yue's spellcasting, a new elemental Kirin appeared again on top of the original rubble. However, this time he didn't experiment in front of the dungeon gate. After slightly cleaning up the messy things on the ground, Liang Yue led the elemental Kirin beast out towards the village gate. As a result, after walking this short distance, he discovered another problem, that is, this divine beast's speed is really a bit slow. Such a small, flat path actually took him 2 minutes. Putting aside some operational factors, this guy's speed might not even be as good as a little teddy bear. Damn it, just a showy thing. Such a big size for nothing. Just after walking out of the village gate stone bridge, Liang Yue came to a thorn forest, or rather, a patch of thorn bushes. Speaking of this thorn forest, in fact, it was transformed from the seed of the 100-year thorn tree that Liang Yue had previously bought from the system store. It was a magical plant from a fantasy world. As long as a seed of a 100-year thorn tree is planted, it can quickly grow into a 100-year thorn tree. Of course, the biggest function of this seed is actually as a weapon. After being activated with magic power, it can be transformed into a wolf's tooth club with a hardness comparable to precision steel. It is a common self-defense weapon for forest races such as elves and druids who admire nature. At that time, Liang Yue bought one out of curiosity. After playing with it for a while, he found that it was temporarily useless, so he planted it outside the village. As a result, more than a month ago, when the stronghold world was upgraded and the world outside the village was time accelerated by the system, the big tree grown from the seed of the 100-year thorn tree was not protected within the exemption light. As a result, now the original 100-year thorn tree has directly evolved into a 1000-year one. During the upgrade process, a large area of seeds of the 100-year, several 100-year, and even 1000-year levels also fell around. I can be considered to have picked up a big bargain, right? It seems that I should plan this place well. After a while, looking at the patch of thorn bushes in front of him, which had almost densely wrapped the outer periphery of the moat at the entrance of the entire village, Liang Yue felt a sense of accomplishment in his heart for a moment. In the following time, after he picked a few 1000-year level thorn seeds from the tree, he began to experiment with the improvement project of the elemental Kirin by the river. Bang bang bang. In this way, accompanied by intermittent muffled explosions, about an hour later, this summon divine beast skill was leveled up to level 2 by him. Whoosh! Under Liang Yue's gradually skilled summoning skills, a new elemental Kirin appeared in just 5 or 6 seconds. This level 2 summon is indeed a bit different. Its body has begun to develop muscular lines, and its appearance looks more refined. With the thought, he controlled the elemental Kirin to run around a few times. Then Liang Yue discovered that with the improvement of the skill, not only did the fire element in the summoned creature become more powerful, and the surface earth shell became more dense and tight. Even the running speed has also increased a lot. The movement method is no longer as stiff as before. When running, it looks somewhat similar to a wild bull. More importantly, the elemental Killen no longer drops soil slag when running. It's not just these, even the elemental magic formation inside the Killen's body is a bit different, becoming more complex and refined. After discovering this phenomenon, Liang Yue suddenly felt like he had found a treasure. He quickly turned to his sleeve and took out his notebook from the storage space, and began to record some of the formations and special features he observed one by one. Then, he combined these changes with a magic diagram inside the Killen summoner. At level 1 the shape looked quite strange, but faintly formed a discontinuous hexagonal pattern. When Liang Yue was studying this elemental Killen before, although he still didn't understand its principle, he still did something. After all, at present, the elemental formation inside the Killen, as well as the running direction and rules, are his biggest discoveries with this thing. It may be of great use to his research. After recording these changes on paper, Liang Yue continued his self-detonation experiment. Bang 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 for the next whole day. This guy spent it in such a forgetful explosion during the process. Teacher Jingxiang and others naturally noticed the abnormality here after finishing the dungeon and came to check it out when they saw that Liang Yue had already brushed out the summon divine beast skill that they had been thinking about. Each of them was immediately envious among them. The little girl Nana even stayed by Liang Yue's side from 8 or 9 in the morning until the sky gradually darkened, and after working hard for such a day, this skill was finally brushed to level 3 by him. The elemental Killen, after being fully leveled, has once again undergone many changes compared to before. The Killen's body has become smoother, the muscles are well proportioned, the limbs are slender, the face is majestic, and a layer of sharp and smooth scales is draped over the body. It even has some elasticity inside the gaps of the scales. Blazing white light and fire are flickering at this moment between the opening and closing of the giant mouth. A hot breath is unconsciously ejected, scorching and distorting the surrounding air. However, to Liang Yue's surprise, when he put his hand on the Killen's back again at this time, he suddenly found that the scales were warm. It was completely unlike the situation at level 1 before, when it could be directly used for barbecue. The control over the power of the elements has become more precise, so that even the body composed of stone shells has undergone some kind of qualitative change. This means that the elemental magic formation inside it must have become more complex. Looking at the elemental Killen beast in front of him, a look of satisfaction could not help but appear on Liang Yue's face. However, when he raised his head and looked at the setting sun on the horizon, which had gradually begun to fall to the coastline, he temporarily gave up the idea of continuing to experiment. Then, Liang Yue picked up Nana, who was also shining in her eyes beside him, and jumped onto the Killen's broad back. With a thought, he urged the divine beast to run towards the village. Chapter 290 Tifa. The skill Summon Divine Beast is, in reality, just a small interlude in Liang Yue's life, or rather, a little seasoning in his cultivation journey. He tastes it, studies it, and incidentally puts the theoretical knowledge from the profound meaning of elements into practice and experiments with it. Whether it succeeds or not, it won't change his path forward. The cultivation and comprehension of martial arts are, after all, Liang Yue's main focus. So, after nightfall, he ate something with the girls and chatted for a while before continuing his cultivation of the Xianshan Guang. The elemental key rin was also brought by Liang Yue to the top floor of the library. At this moment, it was lying on the ground behind him, being used as a heater by little Vajra. After the system's modification, the current Summon Divine Beast is somewhat different from the original Legend series skill. The skill level is still 3, and it can still be raised to 7 through continuous battles. But Liang Yue's Summon Divine Beast has been modified by the system to be actively cancelled. In fact, it is equivalent to temporarily storing the summoned elemental key rin in a special space, which can be summoned and used at any time when needed as long as it doesn't die in battle. The elemental key rin, as a summon, will always maintain its previous appearance. It eliminates the drawback in the game where each time you use the skill to summon, you have to start from the basic level and level up by fighting monsters again. In this way, it will be convenient for me to improve the elemental structure of this summon, and after the transformation, I can save it in time. Let's wait until tomorrow to break into the dungeon again, and try to thoroughly analyze and record the changes of this elemental key rin from level 1 to 7, so that I can better observe and improve it. Thinking of this, Liang Yue couldn't help but look back at the elemental key rin behind him, which was breathing rhythmically, spraying heat between its mouth and nose, but with a dull expression. If this state continues, if there is enough time, I don't know if this thing can produce some independent intelligence like some stories write, or some mysterious things like spirituality, but that should require opportunity, right? Temporarily putting this matter aside, and after calming down for a while, Liang Yue began to operate the Xianshan Guang and slowly entered a state of cultivation. In the following period of time, Liang Yue entered a very fixed cycle, going to the dungeon during the day, practicing skills, and also observing and studying to improve the internal operating mechanism of the elemental Kirin, occasionally going to the New York temple to borrow a few magic books back. In addition, in his spare time, he also has to practice the introductory spells in the cultivation system recorded in the back of Chongchun Gong in his continuous cultivation and exploration, besides the 2 spells of Heavenly Eye Technique and Mind Stabilizing Talisman. Possibly due to the nature of energy, Liang Yue has been unable to learn them. The other 5 spells, such as Fireball, Wind Control, Object Control, Palm Thunder, and Golden Light Charm, have been mastered by him proficiently, especially the 3 spells of Fireball, Wind Control, and Palm Thunder, which involve elemental knowledge, have been used by him with proficiency, and can be said to be readily available with the cooperation of a few hand seals and Xianshan True Key. An elemental power, it can be released instantly. This may also be considered a benefit attached to receiving the profound meaning of element skill. When it comes to the evening, Liang Yue will re-enter the martial arts cultivation mode, mainly focusing on the cultivation of internal strength, and the in-depth combination of thunder, fire, and wood Xianshan perception. In this fulfilling and stable rhythm, time passes day by day, and Liang Yue's strength steadily climbs upward in this process, and gradually enters a better state. Soon, another month has passed, and reality enters February according to the time ratio of the base world. It has been a full 150 days. Liang Yue has also started school again for a week, but for himself, the approaching Lunar New Year is the time that is truly worth busying with teacher Jingxiang, senior sister Zi, and Xiao Zhao and Yang Gu, who also seem to have the same idea. In the days approaching the Spring Festival, they began to frequently enter and exit the manor, taking advantage of their increasingly skilled ability to open doors. They spent their days wandering in major supermarkets in Chinatown, and brought back piles of festive decorations and firecrackers painted by farmers' real person clone-level rebooting doll, Tifa, from a certain technological plane, a private custom version exclusively for a heavyweight game enthusiast, belonging to Contraband, with its own cleaning and maintenance facilities, not yet open PS, except for not having a soul. This is a healthy adult female body. Liang Yue was drawing the lottery in front of the girls at the time, and even little Nano was by his side. Fortunately, the system is still decent, knowing to put clothes on this special item now. This special item has been transferred by him from the base world to the basement of the manor, for which Liang Yue also specially cleaned out a separate room to store her. After that, he did not forget to add a permanent metal protective layer around the 4 weeks. Compared to the doll's body, Liang Yue is more concerned about the cleaning equipment that comes with her. From the appearance, the equipment looks very sci-fi. The main body is a cylindrical glass bucket, filled with a special liquid, used to provide nutrition to the doll's body, as well as other necessary components of the human body. Below this glass bucket is a set of complex control instruments, used to perform various auxiliary operations on the doll's body, such as cleaning, warming, diagnosis, testing various data of the body, and so on. He felt that these things could be used on real people. Of course, if you want this set of equipment to run, the first thing to do is to turn on the power, which is also the main reason why Liang Yue will transfer this thing to reality. The Xavier Manor not only has complete power facilities, but also has an independent diesel power generation equipment as a backup. Once there is an external power outage, this equipment will start automatically and continue to provide stable power to the manor facilities. When purchasing this manor, the agreement clearly stated this, and it also passed the acceptance of Stark Group. This afternoon, after returning to the rented apartment after school, just after putting on the Xuan ring, before he had time to draw a circle to go home, the phone in his pocket suddenly rang. Taking it out and looking at the slightly unexpected name on the screen, a wicked smile suddenly appeared on Liang Yue's face. Hello, that do you have time? I just got out of school not long ago. Of course I have time. I called you many times before, but you didn't answer. I thought you wouldn't contact me again about the matter between us. I was actually a little embarrassed before. Do you have time now? Of course. Where are you? I'll come find you, or you tell me a place, and I'll go find you. Okay, then you come to XXXXX. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Stark never compromises. Afterward, why so proactive today? You wouldn't even answer my calls before. Liang Yue stroked the woman who was lying on his chest and said with a smile, a few days ago, my boyfriend, you might know him, that Professor Glenn from my school, proposed to me, but my father strongly opposed it. I think I was a little irritable before. Betty Ross's tone was somewhat low and breathless as she spoke after hearing his words. Your father really interferes a lot in your affairs. What about you? Did you agree at the time? Liang Yue thought about the stubborn old man he had seen on the street last time and asked. No, I told him I wanted to consider it. As soon as I got home, my father called and expressed his attitude. Betty was silent for a moment before speaking, her tone tinged with melancholy. He even sent people to monitor you. Your father really cares about you. What do you want to do in the future? Liang Yue twitched the corner of his mouth and expressed sympathy for the lady beside him in his heart. I don't know. I feel very awkward at school now, a little absent-minded. And I've been avoiding Glenn these past few days. Betty turned over and crawled to his side, saying, if you don't like being at school, then don't work there. Liang Yue said matter-of-factly, then what should I do? You don't want me to stay at home all the time, do you? I'm a very boring person. If I don't even have a job, I'll definitely get depressed if it doesn't work out. How about I help you find a job? If I remember correctly, your current identity should only be an exchange student. And because of my father, it's not appropriate for me to appear in a company with a Chinese background. And how about going to Stark Industries? I'm very familiar with Tony. You know Tony Stark? How did you meet him? I wrote a novel before called A Song of Ice and Fire. It was quite a bestseller. Stark was initially a fan of my books because he was dissatisfied with certain parts of the novel's plot. He invited me to attend his company's opening party in Manhattan. To talk about adaptation issues later. I started doing business with him and now we're friends. Recently, he even gave me 3,000 acres of land as a Christmas gift. Wow, I really don't understand you people, but Stark Industries is indeed good. If it's not too much trouble, then I'll have to ask you about the job. No problem. What's your major? Nuclear physics, specifically particle physics and nuclear physics. Also, I'm qualified to be a lecturer in materials science. I always thought you would be an expert in gamma rays or some radioactive field. Actually, these subjects aren't too far apart. Okay, I'll give him a call later. It's getting dark. How about we go out for something to eat? I'm a little tired now and don't want to go out. How about we just order a pizza? Are you sure? You're telling a Chinese person that you want to eat pizza? Okay, I'll let you decide on dinner, but I don't want anything too greasy. That's easy. I'll steam a coconut crab and make an oyster soup later. It's winter, so it's good for you. Really? You actually have these ingredients at home? I feel like I'm already drooling. You've drooled many times already. You're so annoying. Soon, after finishing dinner, the night outside the window was already deep. Betty Ross got up to say goodbye. Liang Yue couldn't persuade her to stay, and in the end, he had no choice but to drive her home the next day at lunchtime. This lady, whose ending in the original Marvel storyline was somewhat tragic, had already received an interview notice from Stark Industries in the afternoon. Liang Yue personally accompanied her to Stark Tower. The result was naturally satisfactory. Betty was successfully hired by Stark Industries, but the process was a bit tortuous. Now, the retribution has come. All parties, including the U.S. government and the military, have set their sights on him recently. Some U.S. senators have publicly declared that Tony's era-defining weapon technology should be nationalized and are lobbying the government. It is said that in a while, they will summon this wealthy man to Congress for a special hearing. At this time, Betty Ross, such a sensitive person, the daughter of a hardline representative of the military, was going to work at Stark Industries, which could easily cause misunderstandings, especially since Betty's professional skills and research level might really allow her to learn the relevant technology of portable reactors. And Liang Yue, this guy, inadvertently caused Tony Stark some trouble. If you really want to solve this matter, why don't you just hand it over? In the top floor reception room of Stark Tower, Liang Yue was sitting on one side of the bar, with a glass of whiskey in front of him, looking at Tony Stark opposite him with some surprise behind him. Ms. Potts was responsible for entertaining Betty. The two were huddled together, whispering quietly. You want me to hand over the Iron Man armor? No, they are my children, my life. Each one of them was designed and assembled by me personally. They and I are one, sharing honor and disgrace, never to be separated. Hearing Liang Yue's words, Tony Stark immediately glared and then looked at him with a surprised expression. Don't be silly, Tony. You're over 40 years old now. And you've been mixing in the upper echelons of the United States for so long. Don't you know the value of that armor and the portable reactor to the United States? In fact, not only the United States, but all other countries in the world, all the powerful, want to get them, but your identity is a bit special, and your strength is strong enough, so it has been delayed until now. Saying that, Liang Yue took a sip of the whiskey in his glass, feeling a little hard to drink, so he turned his hand over and took out a barrel of ale from the storage space. Opening the tap, he filled 2 glasses for Tony and himself, and continued while pouring the wine. The United States is actually your umbrella, and it has always been known for being unscrupulous. Now they haven't taken coercive measures against you, but they are just wary of your identity, connections, and influence. But I think you can only delay it for some time at most. Faced with the temptation of this kind of Iron Man armor and portable reactor, if you keep expressing your unwillingness to cooperate, they will turn against you sooner or later. Tony Stark's face suddenly turned ugly after hearing these words. He took the ale handed over by Liang Yue and took a big gulp. He blurted out a sentence that made him laugh and cry. Stark family, never compromise? Hell yeah, I wrote that sentence. Besides, I also know that the Stark family never lies, but this is not the Middle Ages, Tony. Liang Yue replied, twitching the corner of his mouth. Then what do you think I should do? After a moment of silence, Tony asked with a deep expression, I think you should find a middleman. Between you and the United States. Liang Yue thought for a while and said, find who? Tony raised his eyelids and looked at him, with a meaningful look in his eyes. That depends on your own choice. You should have been cooperating with the US government and the military long enough, right? Don't you have anyone you can trust on their side? You mean Rode? Tony was surprised and stood up straight, then took another gulp of wine. That's up to you to choose. My point is that you can't resist the overall will of the United States after all. But since you have to compromise in the end, why don't you find someone you like to look at? Take out a low-profile version of the Iron Man armor, set some passwords or restrictions or something. You don't even need to give them the latest generation of the reactor. In short, it's just to shut their mouths home if you put it that way. Chapter 292 to +6 Toolbox. After Liang Yue's reminder, who knows how long Tony Stark's prideful nature would make him take to compromise with Rode and let him take the Iron Man armor. Probably, it might be a lot faster than in the original storyline, right? However, after Liang Yue solved the radiation poisoning problem of the palladium reactor in advance, the current Stinky Stark has no problem with poisoning, and the whole person is very ambitious. He completely lacks the kind of self-destructive opportunity like in the original plot. Without this life experience of approaching death and despair, it is unknown whether it is good or bad for Iron Man. In short, after helping to solve the work matters, Liang Yue naturally received a warm reception from Ms. Betty. It was a hearty dinner, plus a sweet night. In the original plot, this Ms. Betty Ross was definitely a tragic figure, and her entire life trajectory can be described as full of misfortunes. At the wedding with her ex-boyfriend Banner, due to the leader, that is, the villain who was eroded by Hulk's green blood and whose head became extremely large, under his conspiracy, Banner suddenly went berserk, destroyed the entire wedding, and then disappeared later. Her life went through many twists and turns, and Betty accepted the marriage proposal of Glenn Talbot, who was her current boyfriend and colleague at school. Then, the leader and Murdoch, the leader of AIM, ran out to make trouble again. They directly kidnapped Betty and transformed her into a harpy, using her to deal with the Hulk later. Although Betty regained her appearance with the help of Dr. Banner and lived happily with him for a while, she even became pregnant with Dr. Banner's child, but eventually miscarried. At this time, the two villains, the leader and Murdoch, jumped out again and kidnapped Betty once again, and then transformed this lady into Red She-Hulk. I don't know if Betty is destined to be cursed by the screenwriter, and inexplicably became Marvel's tragic character. In short, now that I have encountered her just because of her appearance, which is almost identical to Arwen, Liang Yue would not choose to stand idly by. Nanoscale tracker microelectric technology can continuously emit special signals ordinary detection equipment cannot detect, can be directly integrated into the human body. The action period is 1 year. The selling price is 500 points. At night, after thinking for a long time, Liang Yue finally decided to put this little gadget, which he had brushed out in the mall a while ago, into Betty's body. Only by truly grasping the whereabouts of this woman can he rush to the rescue in time of crisis. After all, with Liang Yue's current martial arts realm, he does not yet possess the ability to track others' whereabouts from a long distance. With a flip of his hand, a silver metal ball about the size of a grain of rice suddenly appeared on the pad of his index finger under the dim light. This thing, like a drop of mercury, was gently smeared by Liang Yue on the smooth back of the woman beside him in just a few seconds. This silver color completely merged into her body then, only to see his palm flip again. A palm-sized console suddenly appeared, and on the wide display screen, the tracker had already started working, constantly emitting circles of red light, overlapping with a green light represented by the console. In this way, once a dangerous situation occurs, I can track her location. It seems that I have to give her another insurance. After all, after so much effort, it's impossible to send her to someone else's arms in the end. That's it. Soul-shifting technique, mental suggestion, let's go. First, he purchased a batch of advanced equipment for smelting and researching materials through Stark's relationship. Of course, these devices are only small experimental machines, and now this batch of things has been completely transferred to the huge basement of the Xavier mansion. For this reason, with the assistance of Ms. Pepper, Liang Yue also acquired a metal smelting plant on the verge of bankruptcy. This company's plant is very small and belongs to the family workshop type. Due to poor management, it is now unable to make ends meet, and Liang Yue picked it up readymade. There are no decent assets or equipment in this smelting workshop, so it didn't cost much money to buy the whole thing, but it has complete certificates and qualifications for RU0026D. After Liang Yue spent money to change its name, this place officially began to be surnamed Liang with him. As for the purpose of creating this laboratory, it is naturally to study various metal materials, as well as silk fabrics and other items. You must know that the existence of these things is related to the equipment of Liang Yue and others, and even personal safety issues up to now. Although under the persistent efforts of the women, a large number of equipment have been brushed out from the 2 copies of Grand Forest and Zombie Mine, but so far, the best and most practical equipment is still those synthesized by them using the toolboxes and MIC. With the rapid growth of everyone in recent times, iridium ore from the Stardew Valley world has become the mainstream forging material for the equipment in everyone's hands, but Liang Yue has always known very little about iridium. This metal element may be the equipment synthesized and refined from a single iridium ore is of the best quality, but maybe its properties are the same as iron ore, adding a certain amount of carbon, sulfur, copper, aluminum, tin, titanium, or other strange elements will produce another qualitative change, just like iron becomes steel. So, Liang Yue plans to try it out. In addition, with the emergence of some special synthetic products, such as royal steel produced in the Floating Island story series, Zhuan iron, cold jade, cold iron, fine gold, Tei true gold, etc. in the Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber world, he also needs to strengthen more research and understanding in this area. For this reason, Liang Yue also gave a purple iridium ingot to Tony Stark out of trial purposes, asking him to help him conduct corresponding research. After all, his own level in this area is still too lacking. The equipment in the Xavier basement is actually only for helping Liang Yue to explore in this area. In addition, in order to make these new metal materials play a better role, Liang Yue also did another thing during this period, that is, the original 49 grid toolbox was upgraded to +6, that is 9981 grid toolbox. This upgrade process is a bit complicated. Originally, Liang Yue only wanted to further improve on the basis of 49 grids, reaching the level of +5, that is, 64 grids, and that would be enough. As a result, he never thought that when he bought an upgrade treasure talisman from the system wall and carefully upgraded it, the original 49 grid toolbox actually exploded directly. Feeling upset, and for the sake of insurance, Liang Yue had to spend a lot of money to repurchase a batch of upgrade treasure talismans from the system wall. According to the idea of one positive and one auxiliary, 2 toolboxes were upgraded at the same time. The orthodox online game metaphysics scheme was adopted, one of which was used as a base to make cushions. The other one took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack, intending to smuggle over directly before the strengthening god could react. As a result, a situation that made Liang Yue cry and laugh happened after some operations. This time, both toolboxes successfully upgraded to +5, that is, the level of 64 grids. In this case, Liang Yue naturally would not miss this rare opportunity, and good luck, so he directly threw an upgrade treasure talisman on a toolbox again. As a result, one shot into the soul. After experiencing a tug of war and struggle, the +6 treasure was finally achieved, and he did not go to tease the other +5 toolbox again. Subsequently, in the exploration of the women, Liang Yue and others' equipment level was upgraded to another level, but the consequence is that in order to buy a sufficient amount of iridium ore, his wall points are now only less than 20,000 points, left on the verge of bankruptcy. In addition, the batch of alien silkworms obtained from the new Shaolin 5 Ancestors world has now been exhausted. Fortunately, Liang Yue brought back a lot of silkworm seeds at that time under the feeding of massive amounts of iron ore, Gold ore, copper, silver, and even iridium ore. These alien silkworms are now able to produce some silk cocoons sporadically. Chapter 293 Designated Identity Scroll. Moonlight was like jade, and the breeze was cool. I don't know how the changing seasons in this base world are calculated, but a few days ago, a gust of wind suddenly blew through the mountains, carrying a hint of coolness. The entire village seemed to have entered the early autumn season because of this. From that time on, the surrounding plants began to change color one after another. Little by little, they turned dark green, light yellow, fiery red, and even purple. A variety of colors intertwined. It painted a layer of brilliant colors on the originally monotonous green world. In the following days, the rain also began to increase, and during this period, pieces of branches and leaves also showed signs of withering. It was as if autumn had really arrived overnight. The appearance of this change made everyone in the base world very curious, and Liang Yue took this opportunity to conduct a unique autumn tour with a group of young ladies around him. After all, the area that has been explored so far is enough for their survival and squandering. After exploring the map, the permission to adjust and change the terrain of the base world was naturally used by Liang Yue. After heated discussions and reasonable planning by everyone, in the end, Liang Yue did not make any earth-shattering changes to this world. He only raised the relative height of the entire map area by a large amount, and raised several mountains with strange, towering, or precipitous styles. After creating a basin and plain, he stopped there. Among them, Liang Yue's boldest design was probably to create a mountain range floating in the air in the central basin of this entire map area. That mountain has steep cliffs, a peaceful lake on the mountainside, a peach garden surrounded by valleys, and a waterfall. The construction of a large area of scenery almost exhausted all of Liang Yue's design talents, and directly below this floating mountain, there is an even larger lake that is wide enough to wrap the floating mountain in it. Beside the lake is the base that Liang Yue built in the mountains when he first came to the Mic world. It's just that the surrounding mountains have now been pressed into a basin by him. It is now full of flowers, fruitful, with beautiful lakes and mountains, and sparkling waves. Even the cows, sheep, pigs, chickens, and other animals that he had originally confined in wooden fences have now become too crowded, broke open the wooden fences on their own, and scattered everywhere. However, after creating that mountain, Liang Yue and others have not had time to live there, and it has now become a paradise for all kinds of birds. Today is the last day of Liang Yue's 3-month training interval. After the impromptu autumn outing, everyone's life returned to normal, and Liang Yue was about to set off. Still on the top floor space of the library, the library tower has been rebuilt 1 floor higher thanks to everyone's efforts, because the weather is getting colder day by day, and the amount of rainfall is gradually increasing. Although these have little impact on everyone, intentionally or unintentionally, they still built a warming facility on the top platform of the 3rd floor of this tower. Above the head is a thick glass roof, and the surrounding area is surrounded by a circle of scattered lava and water sources. This is the product of teacher Shizuka, Xiao Zhao, and Yang Yu, whose whims. However, Liang Yue predicted that they would definitely have to change it later, because in this way, the temperature of the roof seemed to be too high, and there was still a cloud of steam lingering in it. It's like taking a sauna, so that everyone's daily practice now has to change locations. Time's up, I'm leaving at a rich and long dinner. Just as the clock hand crossed midnight, Liang Yue received a system prompt. Immediately, he glanced at the women at the table, greeted them, and the whole person disappeared from the seat in an instant. Liang Yue-kun, come back early. I don't know when I will be able to go on adventures with him. I think it should be soon. After all, we couldn't even get out of this base world before. That's right, now I'm just grinding dungeons all day long, and I feel like my strength is improving very quickly. I think the system's arrangements for us shouldn't just be for self-entertainment, right? After the line of sight in front of him blurred for a while, Liang Yue reappeared in that strange still space. The whole person was fixed and floating in the air like a freeze-frame picture in a Jack Yu loafing posturing. Randomly selecting plane coordinates, the world that the host will enter this time is Neurotower. Why did it jump directly there? The span of this strength seems to be a bit too large. Liang Yue was shocked when he heard the results of the draw. According to his original calculation, the world he was going to this time was most likely a plane at the level of Fengwan or Datang. If he was unlucky, he might be sent to a more dangerous science fiction or superpower type world. After all, that's in line with his current realm. However, after thinking about it carefully, Liang Yue felt that it was somewhat natural. It seems that I was fascinated by the various flashy ninjutsu in Naruto. Although the power of ninjutsu in this world is very strong, but if we really talk about realm and level, it may not be very high, and except for Kaguya, I have never heard of anyone who can live forever if you calculate it this weighting. Does the host want to use the designated identity scroll? Designated identity. I remember you said before that the positioning of this identity cannot be the protagonist, nor can it be a person who is deeply involved in the plot, so this scroll is obviously not for me to intervene in the plot. As for bloodlines, you can't designate them to races other than humans, but in the Naruto world, there are indeed many differences and advantages and disadvantages in human bloodlines, and this thing can almost determine the upper limit of the level of power a ninja can reach. If so, then use this scroll. It's going to get moldy if I don't use it. Ling. Command confirmed. Please select the intervener's identity. As soon as the system's voice fell, a light screen suddenly popped up in front of Liang Yue. On the light screen was a table, with a vertical list of family surnames and emblems at the top left: Senju, Uchiha, Uzumaki, Hyuga, Sarutobi, Kaguya, Hozuki. At this time, these familiar and unfamiliar forms were densely marked and arranged there. Behind the surname and emblem is a detailed introduction to each family, of course. In addition to these famous families, there are also patches of unnamed people in the original plot. It is estimated that these should be the civilians in each country. Right, the options on this light screen table only go up to the family name, and do not specify the name of any one person. This is in line with the usage rules of the designated identity scroll that the system said before. I choose Konoha Village, Hyuga Clan. Chapter 294. Become a Shota in a second. Regarding the decision to choose the Hyuga clan, the biggest factor was naturally the Byakugan. In fact, Liang Yue had a wish a long time ago, perhaps in his previous life, which was to have a pair of unique and powerful eyes. He wanted the kind where he wouldn't even bother to lift a finger in a fight. Just one look at you and you'd die. Unfortunately, even in this life, after obtaining the system, he still hasn't been able to draw such a pair of eyes. Not only organs on his body, but even the skills corresponding to those parts, and even the heavenly eye technique recorded in the evergreen skill, he hasn't been able to learn. He never expected that this wish would actually be fulfilled because of an identity scroll. What fate actually! Compared to the Hyuga clan's Byakugan, the Uchiha clan's Sharingan seems to be a more suitable option for Liang Yue's wishes, but Liang Yue himself doesn't like the Uchiha clan very much. They are too prone to extremes, and they are also unfairly discriminated against by the surrounding environment. It's one thing to not be liked by the people of Konoha Village, but they might even be killed for no reason. One night in the later stages of the original story, most of the Uchiha clan members, except for a very few survivors, had already received their lunchboxes early on. They seem to be born with a short lifespan. Moreover, more importantly, although the power of the Sharingan is good, the side effects are also huge. Not only does it consume a large amount of chakra, but overuse of the eyes can also easily lead to vision loss, and you might even go blind. To achieve the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan without side effects, in addition to awakening the Mangekyo yourself, you also need to find another pair of Mangekyo Sharingan and merge them with your own. Just thinking about that scene is creepy. As for the ultimate evolutionary form of the Sharingan, the Rinnegan, there's even less to say. The dignified Nagato of the Uzumaki clan, possessing the top bloodline of the Uzumaki clan, plus the top physique of a natural sage body, ended up being drained into a stick figure after using it a few times. In comparison, the Byakugan is safer, although most of its abilities in the early stages are only for auxiliary purposes. This is enough for Liang Yue. Once activated, the line of sight can immediately switch to 360 degrees without blind spots, for reconnaissance and combat. In addition, the Byakugan also has farsightedness, and even a certain degree of perspective ability, which can see the flow of chakra in the opponent's body, etc. Furthermore, after possessing the Byakugan, one will hardly be affected by Jinjutsu. In the original story, Hinata once directly saw through the three-tailed beast level Jinjutsu with her Byakugan. As for whether it will be immune to perverted Jinjutsu such as Tsukuyomi, Infinite Tsukuyomi, and Kado Matsukami, Liang Yue is not sure. After all, no one in the original work has ever used this level of Jinjutsu on members of the Hyuga clan. The order has been confirmed. Plane transfer continues. Ling. An unknown error occurred during the descent process. Identity intervention failed. Ling. The emergency plan has now been activated. Forced loading. Loading complete. Ling. Due to unknown factors, an error occurred during the identity descent process. It has now been corrected. Corrected information and related compensation plan have now been issued to the system interface. Please check it in time. Host. What the heck? This can even go wrong? Hearing what the system said, a sense of foreboding suddenly surged in Liang Yue's heart. However, before he could ask further, his vision suddenly spun, and his mind became dizzy immediately afterwards. Liang Yue only felt a blur in front of his eyes, and he himself seemed to be falling rapidly. However, this feeling only lasted for a short moment, and he regained the feeling of being on solid ground, and the scene in front of him began to become bright and clear again. Immediately afterwards, a strange memory suddenly appeared in his mind, as if it had been generated out of thin air. It was like watching a movie, flashing back many unfamiliar scenes. Identity information and bloodline expansion have been loaded. System tasks have been issued. Please check them in time. Hosting. This month's lottery benefits have now been refreshed. Please pay attention to receiving them. Host. You guys don't come over. Why do you always bully me and shun you? Yo. Our young lady seems to have grown some guts today. She actually dares to speak loudly to us. Hey. The dignified young lady of the Hyuga clan, walking around with an idiot all day. People who don't know would think she's walking a dog. Chunkyu. He is not a dog. You dare to talk back. Are you looking for a beating? Apologize to me. Did you hear that? I told you to apologize. Sorry, louder. I can't hear you. Sorry. Ha. A Hyuga clan princess. What a waste. Your apology doesn't seem sincere at all. Kneel down and say it again. Eh? Why do you have to do this? I told you to kneel down. Why so much why? Didn't you hear? I think you want to get beaten, right? An idiot, a coward, relying on the fact that he has a prestigious family behind him. On a snow-covered, tree-lined path, 3 snot-nosed kids, dressed in a flashy manner, about 4 or 5 years old, are now surrounding another boy and girl with arrogant and mocking expressions. During the process of sarcasm and ridicule, they also kept pushing and provoking the boy and girl. The boy among them is Liang Yue, that is, the idiot in the mouths of these 3 little brats. That's right, after descending into this Naruto world, Liang Yue, who was originally a handsome young man who just turned 20 and was 1.92 meters tall, has shrunk back to the age of a little boy in the blink of an eye after digesting the identity information in his mind. Liang Yue couldn't help but smile bitterly. However, he immediately raised his originally drooping head, and his originally dull eyes began to become radiant. It really is. Misfortune and fortune depend on each other. For me, although this is an unexpected disaster, isn't it also a rare opportunity? Since I'm here, I'll just have to make the best of it. Looking at the little girl in front of him, trembling under the ridicule and threats of the 3 little brats, but still insisting on standing in front of him, Liang Yue decisively reached out and pulled her behind him. Chunkyu? What's wrong with you? The little girl in front of him is Hinata Hyuga. At this moment, her eyes are filled with tears, her nose is twitching, and she is looking at him with a shocked expression, seemingly surprised by his actions, but thinking about it, it makes sense. Who told Liang Yue's identity this time to be an idiot? A cough. Cough. Just as he was about to open his mouth to speak, Liang Yue realized that his current voice probably hadn't spoken much before, or rather, hadn't spoken at all. Therefore, at this time, his throat felt like it had phlegm stuck in it, and his throat was itchy, uncomfortable, and blocked. Yo? The idiot of the Hyuga clan wants to be a hero to save the beauty? But do you have the ability? At this moment, the 3 little brats who were originally surrounding the 2 of them came up with mocking expressions. After one of them finished mocking, he even directly raised his fist and punched Liang Yue's fair face hard. Chapter 295 Hyuga Shuniki. With a soft sound, the little brat's punch was directly caught by Liang Yue. As identified an 8th-level expert, he naturally wouldn't be hit by a small punk of this level, but after the other party's fist landed in his hand, Liang Yue subconsciously frowned. Looking at his current thin, tender hands and arms, he blurted out a sentence so weak. Ah. Kid? You're asking for death, aren't you? How dare you say that to me? Go. Beat him up. The little brat on the opposite side obviously misunderstood the meaning of Liang Yue's words, thinking that he was deliberately provoking him, and his face immediately became a little unsightly. He tried hard to pull back his fist, but found that he couldn't, so he quickly called for help from the other 2. He himself raised a foot and kicked towards Liang Yue's calf. Unfortunately, how could this little brat's reaction keep up with Liang Yue's? He saw this guy directly lunge with a flying knee, hitting him in the stomach, and the little brat, who originally had an arrogant face, immediately screamed, bent over, and knelt on the ground. Then, facing the fist swung at him by the other 2 people, Liang Yue took the punch from the left one with his shoulder, and then punched the other person's eye socket. That's right, Liang Yue took this little brat's punch head on. The reason was that at this time, relying on his keen innate level senses, he had sensitively detected the peeping gaze from behind the bushes not far away. Thinking of some of the plots in the original book, Liang Yue was sure that the other party should be the ninja bodyguard sent by the head of the Hyuga clan to protect Hinata Hyuga behind him, so at this time, even if he wanted to beat someone, he couldn't be too obvious. Then, Liang Yue jumped up again, kicked out with his heel, hitting the calf of the third person on the right at the same time. Taking advantage of the force of the backward kick, he punched again, hitting the nose of the little brat on the left. After the latter's vital points of eyes and nose were suddenly injured, he covered his face and lost his fighting power, crying and lying on the ground sideways, turning his head. The remaining third person, seeing his two companions kneeling on the ground one after another, was already showing a look of fear, his fat face full of tension. Then, he was directly punched in the stomach by Liang Yue. However, he didn't use any heavy force on this kind of little brat who was at the stage of being hated by both humans and dogs. Although he looked annoying, it was enough to teach him a lesson. Chun-Kyu, are you alright? You're finally better, aren't you? At this moment, a cute little girl's voice suddenly came from behind. Then, Hinata Hyuga's little face, full of baby fat, was running towards him with joy and a hint of expectation. She took Liang Yue's hand, looking concerned, with tears still in the corners of her eyes. Seeing this, Liang Yue reached out to help her wipe away her tears, and then the two of them went home together. Hyuga Chun-Kyu is the identity that Liang Yue descended into this world with. This time, however, what is different from the past is that after using the designated identity scroll, Liang Yue's current situation seems a bit special. First of all, he is still human, and his own bloodline is still in a sealed state. That is for sure. However, after the sealed state, there is now an additional branch item, which shows Hyuga Byakugan, and in order to achieve this goal, Liang Yue can be said to have paid a heavy price. A body that had already entered adulthood has now returned to lolly days, but this is only one of them. After returning to the Hyuga clan, the first thing to do is naturally to accept the Hyuga clan leader's questioning. However, it is not quite appropriate to say questioning, because Liang Yue found that this Hyuga clan leader seemed to care about him very much, and loved him very much. He also looked relieved that he could wake up from his original dull state in the past. Hyuga Chun-Kyu had always lived in Hinata Hyuga's courtyard. Although it was just a separate small room in Hinata's courtyard, it was a treat to eat and live with the Hyuga clan's little princess. However, Hyuga Chun-Kyu in the past had always been dull and silly, and he was still young, so naturally there would be no problem now that he has woken up. He can no longer be treated the same as before. After all, there is a difference between men and women. In addition, when it comes to the Hyuga clan leader's concern for Hyuga Chun-Kyu, the main reason is from the previous generation according to the memory conveyed by the system. Hyuga Chun-Kyu's father was once the Hyuga clan leader's guard captain, and their relationship was even closer than that of ordinary guard captains, because Hyuga Chun-Kyu's deceased grandfather seemed to have been a direct member of the Hyuga main family, and was later classified as a branch family after the clan leader election due to the family's inheritance rules. But starting from the grandfather's generation, Hyuga Chun-Kyu's grandfather had a very close relationship with the current clan leader's father, belonging to the kind of staunch direct line supporters. And when it came to Hyuga Chun-Kyu's father, it is said that his cheat father sacrificed himself in order to protect the safety of the current Hyuga clan leader. As for Hyuga Chun-Kyu's mother, she had already died of dystocia when she gave birth to him. Then, combining all of this, Liang Yue's current situation is a standard parents died, has property and a house, and also has a cute childhood sweetheart. Moreover, being close to the clan leader's line is easy to handle. In the original plot, Liang Yue didn't know if there was such a person as Hyuga Chun-Kyu, and even if there was, it is estimated that he would not live long. Now, he is here. Night. The moon in the sky looks like a comb from a distance. In a separate two-story building not far from the Hyuga clan's residential area, Liang Yue was quietly lying in bed, resting with his eyes closed, but secretly, he was silently checking the information on the system panel. This accident, no cause marked. Forget it, it's useless even if I know. Accident report, obtain the Hyuga clan's Byakugan and official identity. The price is that the body shrunk back to 4 years old. In addition, the physical quality and true key are all sealed. WTF. Fortunately, the system is not completely devoid of conscience, and can even choose one item between the physical body and true key, and then unseal it autonomously as the age increases. Then magic is also sealed. Fortunately, there is the heart of magic, and I can start all over again. Calculating it this way, skills should not be affected, and the energy intensity of this Naruto world should not be low. The rest is in terms of supernatural powers. Hair manipulation has not been affected, which is good news for me. Liang Yue identity. Martial arts practitioner, Early innate martial artist internal strength 157,600, sealed, magic 42,192.5, sealed, 50.9, available, strength 427, sealed, 10, available, agility 455, sealed, 10, available, constitution 431, sealed, 10, available, energy 951, sealed, 100, available, bloodline, human, sealed, Hyuga Byakugan, grafting available, talent, energetic, affinity, flame resistance, obtained by bathing in dragon blood, thunder, fire, wood superpower, hair manipulation abilities, simple tool making, mech game character, firearm proficiency skills, language proficiency, ricochet, advanced gunmanship proficiency, basic swordsmanship, observation, magic gleam, Erhu proficiency, sweep, cleave, elemental mysteries, dual swords proficiency, small fireball, large fireball, lightning spell, summon divine beast, cultivation methods, anti-joint grappling technique, innate purple key cover, Hun Yuan Guang, Hangshan swordsmanship, Luan Hong Huiyu, hidden weapon, fireball technique, wind control art, palm thunder, golden light curse, object control hair manipulation level, 610 current level, 6 instinctive manipulation method from the genetic level. In principle, the stronger the mental power, the more powerful the superpower can be exerted. Skill effect, flexibly control the length, curvature, extension, hardness, and color of hair characteristics, infinite, as long as there is energy, it can be regenerated indefinitely. Toughness, the toughness is comparable to aerospace-grade metal resistance, has a certain degree of resistance to energy attacks such as magic and true key telepathy, can become a medium for communication with spirits, and has a certain binding effect. Superpower proficiency 3,781,976 5 million. Chapter 296 Can chakra compare to cultivation? Seeing that his abilities were still usable, Liang Yue immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't in vain that he had desperately trained with those Yuan Mongol soldiers in the world of Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber, and after leveling up 3 times in a row, his abilities had finally undergone a qualitative change. Although Liang Yue now only had 100 points of energy left, the power of his abilities would definitely be affected, but after all, his level was still there, so the power couldn't be too bad. In fact, it wasn't just the hair manipulation ability actually, according to the content on the panel, except for the 3 hard items of true key, physical quality, and magic power being sealed. Almost all other abilities were not restricted, but these 3 major items were precisely the foundation of Liang Yue's other abilities. The magic power aspect was easy to handle. With a heart of magic power in hand, it could automatically gather new magic power. See? In just a few hours, there were 50 more usable magic points on the panel, but the sealing of true key had a great impact on him, which first meant that most of the many cultivation methods he had practiced before could no longer be used normally. Light body techniques, palm techniques, protective covers, flame blade, great shift of universe, etc., all of a sudden became useless. However, techniques that didn't require true key to support them, such as reverse joint grappling, Hangshan swordplay, and the sword radiance bestowed upon him by the Nameless Sword Manual, were not affected. If he wanted to restore his original martial arts achievements, he could only cultivate again. But this involved another problem, that is what to practice. However, when it came to the impact, the sealing of physical quality and 4-dimensional attributes among these 3 major items actually had the greatest impact on Liang Yue. Now, the weak body after being sealed also truly made Liang Yue experience the feeling of his original weakness. Fortunately, the system is still somewhat conscientious, allowing me to choose one of 2, gradually unsealing true key or physical body. However, there doesn't seem to be much to choose from, right? Having already glimpsed the compensation content at the very end of the light curtain, Liang Yue already had a choice in his heart. Experience mission rewards multiplied by 2 plus a chance for skill fusion. By reading the detailed content, Liang Yue understood that this so-called skill fusion was not a skill with the same name, but could allow him to designate 2 things to be fused together. The range of this choice was very wide. It could be skills, abilities, magic, cultivation methods, energy, or even abstract existences such as talent. After selecting, he could carry out a true skill fusion. and without any side effects. With the system providing a bottom-line operation, Liang Yue immediately thought of the fact that he could no longer practice the evergreen art and preserve spiritual power after cultivating the innate purple haze true key some time ago. As the saying goes, misfortune may be an actual blessing. Although my body has become smaller now, and my strength has weakened, it may not be a rare opportunity. It took a long time for this guy to slowly calm down, and after letting out a long breath, he began to plan his cultivation plan. First of all, if you want to cultivate, you must have cultivation methods and external conditions. Evergreen art has already been prepared, there is no problem with this. As for external conditions, the energy activity in this Naruto world seems to be very high, and there is also something called natural energy. I don't know what it is specifically. Anyway, you can cultivate, then there is time. Thinking of this, Liang Yue once again refocused his attention on his current young and weak body. The corner of his eye twitched unconsciously, and then he asked the system in his mind, by the way, system, how long will this experience in the Naruto world last? Ling. This all heaven experience is estimated to last for 15 years. Are you serious? Hearing the other party's words, Liang Yue immediately turned over, took a deep breath, and directly opened his originally closed eyelids, looking like he was dying in order to make the host return to his original age. This method is the simplest and most direct. If you put it that way, it makes sense, but Liang Yue smacked his lips at this time, wanting to refute, but in the end, he found that he had nothing to say. After all, the system has already given him compensation. I've gotten smaller here, it doesn't matter if I stay in this world for a few more years. The key is teacher Jinxiang and the others, letting those young ladies stay with me in the base world for 15 years. When they go back, wouldn't they all become old girls one by one? Even Nana, who is the youngest, has already passed her expiration date. System, Ling. It is recommended that the host introduce the villagers into the real world. At that time, no matter how long the host spends in this experience, it will only disappear for a moment. In reality, that's a good idea. After listening to the system's suggestion, Liang Yue immediately reacted, and the stone that was originally hanging in his heart was considered to have fallen. After that, he fell into deep thought again. So the most beneficial choice for me now should be to unseal my physical body, and I still have to start over with cultivation. As for the cultivation method, although I would also like to try the 9 Heavens Thunder Control Scripture of Longhu Mountain, it is still not as practical as evergreen art. Then let's decide on this evergreen art system. I want to choose to unseal my physical body. After speaking, Liang Yue sat up from the bed all of a sudden, and then slowly came to the window sill, looking at the night scene outside where goose feather snowflakes had already begun to fall. A trace of cold air was constantly seeping in from outside the glass window, and this long-lost sense of cold also made Liang Yue subconsciously tighten the clothes on his body. Ding. The order has been confirmed. Within the next 15 years, the host's physical seal will be gradually lifted? That is to say, during this period, my physical fitness cannot be actively increased, Ling. It can be increased, but it needs to happen on the basis of the host's unsealed state. Okay. After listening to the system's words, Liang Yue was also speechless. It seems that, apart from the cultivation of evergreen art being a good opportunity, people have not left any other loopholes for themselves. However, Liang Yue is actually very satisfied with this. It's just that, if you want to cultivate evergreen art, the next training plan has to be rearranged. After all, basic spiritual power itself has no power. It cannot be used to activate martial arts techniques, and can only cultivate techniques such as fireball technique and palm thunder. As for the others, the 8 trigram palm that I drew earlier can be practiced. After all, it is a national art. Then there is Dazu fist, mainly the body skills in this inheritance. The internal cultivation method is fine, lest I end up making a fool of myself. In addition, chaotic red flower rain can also be tried. After all, the knowledge of hidden weapons is similar to the kunai and flying needles of ninjas, which belong to the same system. It's a pity that without the cooperation of martial arts true ki, the last few layers of this hidden weapon technique cannot be refined at all. However, if the hidden weapon is combined with the object control technique in the cultivation system, then the power may not be worse than the original. Calculating like this, the future is promising. After having a general outline and plan, Liang Yue's heart also calmed down a lot. He stomped his numb feet slightly, and then this guy hid back in his bed. As for whether to cultivate the chakra of this world, to be honest, Liang Yue has never considered going in that direction from beginning to end. Although the power of the chakra in this Naruto world itself is not bad, and it also has many magical things. For example, it is said that through a person's chakra, You can also see his past memories or something, but this kind of power is too niche. After all, niche means a narrow path compared with a cultivation system. The potential is even more dwarfed. Simply one in the sky and one on the ground. Let's not talk about the others. Just look at the aspect of prolonging life. The cultivators in the cultivation system are famous for being able to live. What about chakra in turn? Even if you cultivate to the top, what can you do? Apart from the Otsutsuki family, who can live long, with thousands of great avenues and thousands of supernatural powers, what's the use if you can't live? The third Hokage is considered a longevity tumbler among ninjas, but he still died at the age of 69, although his death was because he wanted to seal Orochimaru and chose to actively sacrifice himself. But just by the fact that he was able to live to be more than 80 years old when he was 69 years old before his death, it is already very telling. Chapter 297 Wind Magic Dragon Character Template. Main Quest: Hunt the Mastermind. Quest requirements: discern truth from falsehood in a chaotic world, and hunt down the mastermind of the world's wars by any means necessary. The quest duration is 15 years, with Black Zetsu being a mandatory target. Quest rewards: 5,000 points, 1 extra lottery draw. After completing the mandatory kill, each additional mastermind hunted will affect the rewards. Side quest: protect Konoha. Quest requirements: prevent the Konoha crush and safeguard Konoha village until the host leaves this world. Quest rewards: 5,000 points, 1 extra lottery draw. Side quest: Byakugan evolution. Quest requirements: evolve the Byakugan to at least the Tensegan level, or produce other mutations. Quest rewards: 3,000 points, 1 random related skill or technique. Each level of improvement will affect the rewards. This time's quest I'm a bit conflicted about it. Liang Yue, who had just closed his eyes, couldn't help but open them again and scratched his head fiercely after reading the system's quest. Speaking of which, the villains nowadays don't seem to be purely evil anymore when creating characters. A bunch of creators are also very cunningly starting to guide what was originally a simple bad person doing bad things towards a conflict of ideas and positions. For example, although Uchiha Madara launched the Fourth Shinobi World War and intended to keep all of humanity in the illusionary world of the infinite Tsukuyomi, he was actually doing it for peace. Although Black Zetsu is the mastermind behind the entire event, using conspiracies and tricks to bewitch Uchiha Madara into launching the Fourth Shinobi World War, in the final analysis, he was doing it to split the mountain and save his mother. Even Itachi and Obito, who slaughtered their entire clans, were forced to do so for the sake of great love and protection in their hearts. As a result, even Marvel later began to imitate, forcibly arranging an official position of the Universe Planning Commission for the Big Boss, the Mad Titan Thanos. In the plot, the purpose is to create a kind of feeling that he is not a bad person, he just has a different position from you. You don't understand him, just because your height and vision are not enough. Forget it, why bother with these things? System, I want to draw a lottery. After closing his eyes again and temporarily putting these troubles aside, Liang Yue immediately said to the system. As soon as he finished speaking, the familiar lottery turntable immediately appeared in front of him. Even through his eyelids, he could clearly see every detail on it. After roughly scanning the prizes on the disc, Liang Yue gave the order start stop. Ling. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a Wind Spirit Dragon character growth template. This item comes from the Don't Starve world. This template can be used repeatedly 3 times after system modification. The template's upgrade path has been modified. During the growth process, there will be a certain chance to obtain the original dragon's instincts, or a small amount of dragon bloodline growth template. You can actually draw this kind of thing? Speaking of which, although I saw this card on the turntable before, I thought it was just an enchantment card at the time. Wind Spirit Dragon? This seems to be a boss in the Rune Workshop, but if it's in the Don't Starve world, its abilities must be greatly weakened. As for after the modification, I remember when I was in my previous life, I also played this character. In addition to having the Don't Starve technology system, it seems that I can also unlock an ancient technology tower when fighting monsters. It seems that a special rune will also drop. There are only 30 levels of growth potential in total. Each level up will increase speed, health, and sanity. Has exclusive equipment, weapons, backpacks, food, amulets, and what else is there? Oh, right, you can make a branch called the Sheili's tree, which is said to be able to plant a tree of life, but after planting it, it's just a cave banana. After a series of whimsical thoughts, looking at the character growth template lying in his storage space at this time, Liang Yue was once again caught in a tangle in his heart. He was both happy and hesitant. What's pleasing is that this character growth template is the first time he's drawn it, and its effect is heaven-defying. According to the system's introduction, after having this thing, He can have the proper ability to fight monsters and level up like little King Kong. What makes him hesitate is that the potential of this growth card itself is very low. The Wind Spirit Dragon is naturally a powerful character, and also a strong one in the dragon race, appearing as a boss in the original game, but if you put it in the framework of the Don't Starve world in the form of a mod and a side story character, then she can only be regarded as a casual character template. Even if it's strong enough in the Don't Starve world, it can only be trash in the scope of the myriad worlds. What to do? Should I use it or not? So Tangled system, give me an idea, Ling. Please make your own decision, host. Then after I use it, can I use other templates again, Ling? In principle, it is feasible, but the subsequently added template needs to be stronger than the former, otherwise it can only be continued. Continue? What do you mean, Ling? The growth potential of this Wind Spirit Dragon template is 30 levels. Continuing means converting to new template from level 31 and continuing to grow. Oh, you mean, it will occupy the level cap in the early stage? Then what if I use a template that is stronger than this Wind Spirit Dragon, Ling? It can forcibly overwrite the first 30 levels of growth content, but the consequences have a certain degree of uncertainty. It may produce an offset phenomenon, or it may promote the fusion between templates. Is that so? Listening to it, it's not that there is no room for recovery, but system, to what extent is your modification of this template? It's the dragon's instinct, and the bloodline or something. It sounds quite bluffing, but this thing, after all, hasn't broken through the Don't Starve world system, right, Ling? Please experience it yourself, host. Okay, then let me ask you one last question, that is, after using this growth template, will I have to turn into the appearance of the Wind Spirit Dragon? This is actually one of the main reasons why Liang Yue is tangled. You need to know that although the Wind Spirit Dragon is a dragon, she appears as a little girl in the Don't Starve world. In terms of appearance, it's probably exactly the same as Kana from Dragon Maid. It's a cute lolly style. If Liang Yue has to transform into that appearance after using a template, then he doesn't have to hang out in the future. Ding. You can choose whether to switch the image. That's okay. After having no more doubts in his heart, Liang Yue immediately crawled out of the quilt, and then pretended to run into the toilet, closed the door, pulled the curtains. A thick layer of wooden blocks was blocked in the small compartment. After a burst of hand-waving, Liang Yue then sat on the toilet, took out the card with the image of a chubby, cute little girl on it, and silently recited it in his heart. Suddenly, a burst of soft cyan light rose from the card, enveloping his whole body. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298, Caged Bird Curse. In Konoha year 49, Hinata and Shunkia were born in the same year. That year, Orochimaru defected from the ninja village, casting a deep shadow over Konoha, which was still undergoing the trials of war now. Both Hinata Hyuga and Shunkia Hyuga are 4 years old, so the current time should be Konoha year 52. The season has already entered the depths of winter, and the end of the year is approaching. Relying on his energy attribute, which still far exceeds that of ordinary people, and the habits he had formed over a long period, Liang Yue woke up before dawn on the second day. However, being new to this place, he did not start cultivating. At this time, he appeared very cautious. Even last night, when moving around in this house that had just been assigned to him, Liang Yue was exceptionally careful, for fear of revealing any discrepancies from the original owner. After all, those living around him now are all ninjas, and the Hyuga clan are even more a group of people with long-range vision and X-ray vision, so he had to be careful. Fortunately, the Hyuga Chunkyu that Liang Yue replaced was previously an idiot. Moreover, according to the memories conveyed by the system, his idiocy seemed to be innate, brought out from his mother's womb, so even if he made some unconventional moves, no one would find it strange. Of course, independent cultivation is definitely not included in that. However, in the eyes of others, Liang Yue is actually quite smart. At the very least, he is not the kind of pure idiot who stumbles when walking and drools at the corners of his mouth. Although he learns things slowly, he can still master them if taught a few more times. For example, Liang Yue, now 4 years old, can dress himself independently and roam freely through the Hyuga clan and even the streets of Konoha village without worrying about getting lost. So after getting up and getting dressed, Liang Yue just tidied himself up slightly, changed his hairstyle to be slightly different from the past, and then, relying on some memories in his mind, he set off from his home, stepping on the thick snow covering the ground, and walked leisurely to the outside of Hinata's courtyard. Then, He naturally pushed open the door and sat down under the eaves of her house as the Hyuga clan's eldest young lady and designated successor. Hinata's small courtyard is naturally very good, and can even be said to be luxurious even under the cover of snow. It is difficult to hide the elegant scenery design around it. It's just a bit deserted. Chunkyu, is that you? After a slight rustling sound, the wooden door behind him was pulled open, revealing Hinata's delicate little face. With a joyful smile on her chubby cheeks. Hinata, you're awake? Yeah, come in quickly. Chunkyu, it's so cold outside. Oh. It can be seen that Hinata at this time is very attached to Liang Yue. After entering the house, she happily poured him a cup of hot tea, and then couldn't wait to ask about his feelings when he was alone yesterday. After a while, someone brought breakfast over. After eating, the two went to the main house together, and then found the current head of the Hyuga clan, Hinata's father, Hiashi Hyuga. The past Liang Yue, that is, Hyuga Chunkyu, was naturally unable to be taught cultivation due to his idiocy and lack of mental agility. After all, no one would waste time on an idiot, so Liang Yue at that time was even less qualified to come into contact with the Hyuga clan's family-inherited gentle fist. Now that his mind is clear, the matter of cultivation will naturally be put on the agenda. In addition, Liang Yue is currently only 4 years old, and apart from a little basic boxing skills, nothing has been delayed. Chakra cultivation cannot be started too early, as it is said to be harmful to the body. However, before formally cultivating, Hiashi Hyuga still appeared very cautious in order to prevent some unexpected situations from occurring. For this reason, the Hyuga clan leader even specially invited an outsider ninja, who was said to be checking the injury in Hyuga Chunkyu's brain. In fact, the injury and the like are naturally just an excuse, and Liang Yue can of course see it. This Hyuga clan leader should just be worried about the reason for his sudden awakening. Fearing that he was controlled by some strange secret technique performed by an outsider ninja, although the probability of this is very small, as the head of a clan and involving the family's secret techniques, it had to be done. Alright, since the system said it's fine, then you can check it. If you can see any abnormalities, I'll admit defeat. The whole procedure was actually not complicated. It only lasted less than 5 minutes, and the ninja responsible for the inspection got up and left. Then, Liang Yue was allowed by the Hyuga clan leader, who was in a great mood, to listen in on his individual training and teaching of Hinata. Then, Liang Yue received an extra living allowance from the Hyuga family head. Then, about 3 days later, Liang Yue was given a caged bird curse seal by the Hyuga family system. Can this thing be removed? After nightfall, Liang Yue returned to his 2-story small building, looked at the X sign plus 2 hooks on his forehead in the mirror with a displeased expression, rubbed it hard, and then said with some gnashing of teeth, "Ding. This curse seal is composed of chakra combined with sealing secret techniques, but in essence, it is still a form of energy application, which can be removed with the host's original Xianshan Zixa True Key cultivation. In addition, corresponding skills or items can also remove it. Xianshan Zixa True Key is enough?" That's a bit of a surprise, but with a high assimilation of Zixa True Key, it can be explained, but that will have to wait until 15 years later. The system wall is even more unnecessary to mention. So far, it hasn't produced anything that can dispel negative spells. In addition, there are no skills in the legendary series that can remove negative statuses. It's really difficult. After complaining for a while, Liang Yue could only find a black cloth strip from the side and wrap it around his forehead. Then, he came to the open space in his small courtyard, and using the cold moonlight, began to practice the Bagua Palm, a national art, which he had previously opened from the skill box. Liang Yue cannot practice the Chongchun Gong now, because the Hyuga family has not yet begun to teach him the method of chakra cultivation. Facing such a group of ninjas who can see the flow of chakra inside the human body, he has to be extra careful. But Liang Yue is, after all, from modern society, and his thinking is also that of an adult. Although he has experienced several journeys through the heavens, that was at least under normal circumstances. Now, he has suddenly shrunk back to a 4-year-old kid, and he can't run out to play in the cold winter months, so he can only patiently vent his energy on cultivation. The Hyuga family's gentle fist certainly needs to be practiced, but he is currently still building the foundation, and has not yet come into contact with any decent secret inheritance. Moreover, when it comes to basic cultivation, Liang Yue is much better than those people practicing this Bagua Palm, which does not require energy to cooperate, is actually a kind of basic cultivation. Moreover, there seem to be many similarities between this Bagua Palm and the Hyuga family's inherited gentle fist. This can only be attributed to fate, of course, compared to practicing Bagua Palm empty-handed. Liang Yue actually prefers the Bagwood double swordsmanship recorded in the Bagwood palm due to long-standing habits. In addition, he also took 10 flying knives from the clan's training room to practice the skill of throwing flying knives after returning home. Chapter 299 Little Female Dragon Rachel. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Winter departed, spring arrived, and all things revived during this time. Due to Liang Yue's outstanding talent and earnest attitude and cultivation, he was specially permitted to participate in the recent youth competition. Of course, the selection scope for the competition members was limited to the Hyuga clan, and they had to be those little brats who hadn't officially entered the Konoha Ninja Academy. The time was set for early tomorrow morning. 1 year, 2 years, or even 3 years, which translates to the age of 3, 4, or 5 years old, and cultivation is often like this, in most cases. Being one step ahead of others allows you to be ahead in every step. Those families that can stand firm in the turbulent ninja world all have their own secret recipes and inherited techniques. Unless you have a cheat or are truly gifted, a once-in-a-century genius or something otherwise, ordinary civilian players almost have no chance to compete with prestigious families. However, the disadvantage of this method of premature cultivation through drugs and maintenance is that it is too expensive. Even the Hyuga clan, such an ancient family, cannot allow every eligible child in the clan to enjoy such an advantage. So tomorrow's competition is to select outstanding disciples within the clan to compete for the quota for a new round of advanced cultivation. Of course, logically speaking, even if Liang Yue obtains this quota, his starting point is actually a bit late, because according to his memory, Hinata started chakra cultivation as early as 3 years old. Moreover, as the direct daughter of the Hyuga clan's main family, the little girl doesn't need to compete with a branch family for any quotas or qualifications. She can automatically enjoy all these benefits night after finishing a day of cultivation. Liang Yue routinely ate his supper while communicating with the women of the stronghold world through the village platform. In fact, recently, except for sleeping and going to the toilet, he has been keeping the video chat mode on most of the time. After adjusting the call settings, Liang Yue could communicate with the young ladies in another world just by relying on his thoughts, and their voices could only be heard by him. The fact that he would stay in the Naruto world for a full 15 years had naturally been told to teacher Shizuka and others by Liang Yue some time ago. Subsequently, things went as he had expected. Before after learning this news, the young ladies were immediately shocked. Saya Takagi, the pink-haired girl, and Sikobir Sujima, the big sister, even exploded directly, scolding Liang Yue. Fortunately, the solution he subsequently gave was satisfactory enough to calm everyone's worries. After that, the young ladies only had curiosity about this ninja world left in their hearts. You know, half of his villagers are Japanese. Moreover, Naruto, to a certain extent, is already considered a high-energy world, with various chaotic elemental spells, ninjutsu, secret techniques, taijutsu, jinjutsu, and other all-round system inheritances. This naturally has a considerable degree of attraction for them. Therefore, during this period of time, even if Liang Yue was only conducting simple basic gentle fist training in the Hyuga family, the young ladies would always monitor and watch once there were any tips involving ninjutsu cultivation, or some key points related to cultivation. Everyone would even take out small notebooks and directly record them. In fact, during this period of time, Siko, the Takagi mother and daughter, Yang Yuhu, and others have also had very full schedules in the stronghold world. In addition to daily dungeon runs, skill training, and martial arts cultivation, they have also begun the development work for the floating mountain located in the central basin. However, the progress is not fast, and after a full 3 months, they have only just started. In addition, after Liang Yue consumed the one-time usage permission of the Wind Illusion Dragon Growth template, he has now given the remaining 2 opportunities of the card to the people in the stronghold world. After some discussion and research, the giant eagle Rachel, and Dylan, the youngest among the crowd, respectively obtained the empowerment of a growth template if Nano was given the opportunity, because she was young and the sisters were taking care of her. Then Rachel, the little female eagle, was because she was indeed very suitable to use this card. In addition to being able to obtain a so-called crude upgrade template, with a chance to obtain dragon instincts and a small amount of dragon blood to enhance her strength. More importantly, with this template attached, Rachel now has the ability to transform, that is to transform from a giant eagle form into a cute little girl. Rachel in human form cannot fly, but she can speak human language, sit on the table to eat and drink. And it is more convenient for her to run dungeons with the women, cast spells, and even practice some kung fu that can only be practiced in human form, for example, Desu Fist, etc. This is definitely a great thing for Rachel. In addition, After the system's improvement, in addition to changing the upgrade mechanism of the Wind Illusion Dragon template from the original, which only required eating dragon fruit to upgrade, to accumulating enough experience and then triggering it by eating dragon fruit, it also added some abilities that are inherent to dragons. For example, when upgrading to level 5, one can comprehend a skill similar to night vision, officially named Eye of Truth. Liang Yue hasn't comprehended it yet, because he has nowhere to grind and level up at this time. Rachel and Nana in the Stronghold world have comprehended it, and their strength can be said to be increasing day by day by borrowing the experience system in the dungeon. I don't know if this counts as the modification content that the system said before, that there is a certain chance to obtain the original dragon's instincts. If so, then this chance seems to be not small. In addition, with the help of this growth template, the growth rate they gain for each level seems to be quite a lot. According to Rachel and Nana's feedback, when they reached level 5, in addition to obtaining the 5% attack, defense, elemental resistance, health, and autonomous 4 choice rewards under the famine template, they also got an extra 50 free attribute points, which can be used to freely improve their physical fitness and 4-dimensional attributes. This benefit really envied the group of young ladies next to them. Chapter 300 Little Eagle Spreads Wings. Liang Yue, I want a character growth template too. On the other side of the video, Sayatakaji was holding a cup of yogurt, her cheeks puffed out, looking at Liang Yue with a displeased expression. Next to the pink-haired girl, Shizuka-sensei was also pouting enviously, holding Rachel, who had transformed into Kana-chan, sitting there, her hands occasionally pinching her chubby cheeks. The jelly-like texture stunned everyone around. There's nothing I can do. Who would have thought that the system would have such a thing? It was just good luck this time. I don't know how long it will take to draw it again. Liang Yue had a faint bitter smile on his face. His mouth didn't move, but his voice had already reached the ears of the girls. At the same time, 3 sharp kunai were being skillfully manipulated between his fingers, rotating, tumbling, bouncing, inverting, wandering. This series of movements was like the kunai dancing between his fingers. The graceful light and shadow faintly depicted a delicate peony. Its momentum was flexible and swift, but the trajectories of movement were independent of each other. While spinning and entwining, there was no collision sound between them. This was the basic training course of the profound hidden weapon technique, Luan Hong Luo Yu, obtained from the world of heaven sword and dragon saber, a unique technique created by the old eunuch himself. I don't care, I want it. Hearing Liang Yue's words, Sayatakaji immediately raised her eyebrows, her cheeks puffed up like a frog, half threatening and half coquettish. But that kind of thing can't be obtained just by wanting it. The key is that it involves luck. Liang Yue replied helplessly. But it's already on sale in the system store. Really? I haven't paid much attention to it before. TCH. Stop it, I already told you yesterday. Okay. But that's 30,000 points per card. We can't afford it for the time being. I only have less than 20,000 points on hand now. Then find a way as soon as possible. A way. I definitely have to think about it, but no matter how fast, it will be at least 15 years later. Regarding this point, we have already discussed it before. After continuing to practice in the space world for a year or two, we will go directly to reality. It only takes a moment there. Well, as long as you can see it, I will try my best to work hard and try to earn more points this time. Liang Yue-kun, Shizuka wants a growth template too. Shizuka-sensei next to her also tilted her head and leaned in front of the camera, her face full of anticipation. Don't worry, this time is just an accident. When I gave you gifts before, which time didn't I give them to 10 people together? Yeah, I knew. Liang Yue-kun, you are the best. Actually, according to the system's introduction, the potential of this Wind Phantom Dragon growth template is not high. You find it a bit novel now, but there will definitely be better ones later. Don't say these useless things. If there are better ones in the future, we can just cover this Wind Phantom Dragon according to the system's instructions. By then maybe we can fuse some good things. Okay, whatever makes you happy. After chatting with the girls on the other side of the video for a while, Liang Yue got into bed to rest after drawing lots. Liang Yue did not directly advance by default like the protagonist in the legend. His opponent in the first round seemed to be a junior from a Hyuga Elders faction, named Hyuga Noda. He was of average appearance, his eyes were a little small, and his expression was a little arrogant. After learning that Liang Yue was his opponent, he looked over with a contemptuous and disdainful expression. Obviously, this guy really treated him like an idiot, but judging from the looks of it, the aptitude of this little brat should not be very good, because Liang Yue vaguely remembered that this little brat named Noda was already 5 years old this year. If he really had talent, he should have been selected 1 or 2 years earlier. The outcome of this clan selection is not important. We only look at the process. What you need to do is to show everything you have learned in actual combat at that time. If your performance has commendable aspects, you will naturally be selected. Conversely, if you are too mediocre, don't even think about passing. After a brief opening remark, the Hyuga clan leader immediately announced the start of the selection with a blank expression. In recent times, although Liang Yue has been laying the foundation and working hard, his eyes are not blind. Although he received the Hyuga clan leader's special permission for Hinata to audit the teachings, he also often frequented the training room to watch others practice martial arts during the process. Others have never paid much attention to Liang Yue, a former idiot, but during this period, he had a rough idea of the strength of the juniors in the clan according to Liang Yue's own judgment. Except for a few scattered little brats who were individually taught and cultivated because they came from the upper echelons of the clan, most of the eligible children who came to participate in the selection today are just half-baked. Reciting from the book, there is no one worthy of Liang Yue's attention. First round, Ono vs Hirunami. Second round, Shiro vs Ryaichi. Third round, Sensu vs Uramishi. Looking at the pairs on the field, just like going through the motions, entering and exiting in a hurry, and being hurriedly called to stop because they showed the momentum of a turtle boxing, not to mention the surrounding crowd. Even Liang Yue felt a toothache watching at the young ladies who had their cameras secretly turned around by him and were watching the little brats fight with him, were already laughing and chattering while eating fruits and drinking tea. They were commenting on the little brats. It's fortunate that the clan leader and the elders at the head have good self-restraint and can sit there and maintain a blank expression. Presumably, they are already used to it. Seventh round, Shunju vs Noda. Soon, Liang Yue was called by name and walked unhurriedly into the field. A little brat from a certain clan elder's lineage was already impatient and had entered the field early to wait there. Shunju. Cheer up. Inada behind him clenched her fists at this time, her small face showing some shyness as she cheered for him, but her voice was a little soft and waxy, and didn't seem to have much momentum. However, it still won Liang Yue's smile in an instant. The two combatants stood still in the field, separated by 7 or 8 meters. A ninja in charge of the referee looked left and right, immediately put his palm in the middle of the two, and then gently raised it, saying slowly, "Start." After hearing the referee's slogan, Noda on the opposite side immediately shouted loudly, then, with a fierce face, holding 2 fists, taking small steps, he rushed straight towards Liang Yue. When he invaded within 1 meter of him, his whole body suddenly stopped, his feet squatted in a horse stance, and at the same time, he threw a standard straight punch at his nose. "Fall down for me." Seeing this, Liang Yue also took half a step forward, opened his palms, and performed a trick of a young eagle spreading its wings. Well, I don't know what to call it anyway. It was just pointing his hands like knives, and waving them forward with his backhand. At the same time, one hand knife chopped on the opponent's forearm, and the other hand knife directly chopped on his neck. Then, after hearing a soft paw sound, the little brat named Hyuga Noda fell softly to the ground. He couldn't get up for a long time. Oh? Huh? Soon, accompanied by a chaotic sound of surprise from the onlookers, a teenager of about 10 years old ran into the crowd. After checking Hyuga Noda's body and finding that he was not injured, he immediately breathed a sigh of relief, but then he raised his head with a bit of anger and shouted at Liang Yue, "What kind of trick is that?" Hearing this, Liang Yue tilted his head blankly, and then pointed his fingers like knives again, regesturing the young eagle spreading its wings just now, and then said, "It's just, treat your hands as 2 knives and chop him." You. Hearing this, the young man immediately raised his eyebrows, his face showing anger. And the surrounding spectators immediately burst into laughter. Even the Hyuga clan leader, who was originally sitting in the central seat, also curved the corners of his mouth at this time. A trace of appreciation flashed in his eyes, and then he spoke. "This competition tests the mastery of the basics of Gentle Fist. Shunju used the moves in Gentle Fist in the next round." Yes, clan leader. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.